on X-Men.
The podcast that looks back on X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. You can find more about the show notes like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Other shows on the network include Three Nice Things, where we force ourselves to say 3 nice things about a movie with a bad and often earned reputation. Sounds familiar. There's Is It Classic, Does It Rock, where we pick a band or artist and go through their discography, album by album, track by track. 9021, Here We Go.
Here we go.
A 90210 Rewatch Podcast. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook and Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, and share this show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Eric Mickles, known online as Dusk vs. Tweak, and with me is my co-host Hilary Gunning, known online as Tweak vs. Dusk.
No, that's false.
Okay.
I'm not known online as anything in particular. I'm too old.
We're the same age.
Yeah, you're young at heart.
Thank you.
That wasn't a compliment.
Aww. Today, we're talking about the 2009 film, X-Men Origins Wolverine, a film that does not make me feel young at heart.
Eric doesn't like this movie.
Eric, maybe.
Listen, I have bad news.
Mm-hmm. You like this movie?
I watched it again last night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to be like, oh, Eric's right. He's so right. I liked it. I liked the movie. Mm-hmm. I liked it.
Before we start recording, Hilary and I promised to still be friends after this episode.
Eric promised.
Oh.
I think I maybe nodded, so that might count.
Right. So we'll see. Who knows? I'm going to try to be as subjective as I can be, but sometimes that makes me angry.
Do you mean objective?
Oh, yeah. I do. I'm going to try to be objective. All right, well, I guess you can see where my loyalties lie then. I am going to try to be objective, but also accept that everything is subjective.
There we go. It's
That's
complex.
what I mean to be.
It's complex.
I'm going to accept that everything's subjective, even this. After X-Men The Last Stand, the talk around the franchise was spin-offs!
Spin-offs!
Because X-Men The Last Stand was basically, it's over, it's ended. And I remember reading some stuff saying that certain Fox executives, certain people in charge, hated the franchise.
What?
They didn't like how expensive the series was. They didn't like how big the cast was. So they just wanted X-Men The Last Stand to end the trilogy, as it were, and then do smaller...
I don't know if I've expressed to you my feelings about producers getting in on this nonsense.
I know.
I don't like it. Back off. I remember when it was going to be like all of the origins of all of the various characters.
Yeah.
I was kind of into that.
Because X-Men Origins, it's then X-Men Origins :
Yeah.
And then it says Wolverine, because X-Men Origins was supposed to be more of the label. And so Magneto, Storm, and Juggernaut were the names that I remember being thrown around.
Yeah, I don't know. Storm, yes. I don't know that we need another look at Magneto's...
Well, it was supposed to be like Magneto as a child. And so it was going to be kind of like that. There was that Hannibal Lecter prequel that showed him and it was supposed to be kind of like that, like him escaping the Holocaust and his out for revenge. But most of what Magneto was going to be was kind of wrapped up into First Class. So that I think the gist of that was probably done as best as it could be done in First Class. I don't know why the Juggernaut of all the characters was considered.
It's conceivable that they could go with like a really different feel, since he's not like the typical mutant story.
I think it would have been like a Hulk thing where like sometimes he turns into the Juggernaut. Yeah. I don't remember. I just don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I'm not super interested in that. Storm, I would watch. I mean, I would watch a Gambit movie, obviously.
Yeah, Gambit was being thrown around. Deadpool was being thrown around, but at the time, Deadpool wasn't connected to X-Men movie-wise. So there were names, I think even Cyclops, Professor X, and I remember Mystique, and even like a female-only X-Men movie, where all this stuff was being tossed around. It just had like, no one really knew what was going. Magneto, I think, was the closest, but it entered like development hell. David Benioff, who would later go on to work with his collaborator D.B. Weiss on the Game of Thrones series.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. It ended in a much satisfying way to all fans.
To everyone.
Yeah, to everyone.
Yeah, it was really, really well received.
Was hired to write the original script. So he was using Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, Chris Claremont and Frank Miller's Wolverine miniseries, and Paul Jenkins and Andy Kurbert's origin stories as the basis.
I just gotta say that you said Windsor.
Did I not say that right?
I mean, I would say Windsor.
Oh, Barry Windsor Smith.
Windsor sounds like...
Look, I just had my wisdom teeth taken out, so I can't pronounce anything.
He's some sort of like alien benefactor.
No, I don't think it. The Weapon X stuff, you kind of see it. Chris Claremont, Frank Miller's Wolverine, that's the story that puts him in Japan. I don't know how much of that was taken. And then Paul Jenkins and Andy Kurbert's origin story for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, but, you get a really good look at it.
Hugh Jackman also had a say in the script, telling Can Mag, which I don't know where that is, and I couldn't find the site anymore.
Canadian Magazine?
Oh,
maybe.
Nice. In 2006, that he wanted it to be more of a character piece.
Yeah.
While Benioff wanted a darker story and wrote towards an R rating, Fox had Skip Woods come in and revise the script. Woods was just coming off the film Hitman, so I don't know. Bryan Singer and Brett Ratner were interested in coming back to the franchise. Also, Underworld series director Len Wiseman wanted a chance to direct the franchise at some point. He's directed all the Underworld films. Or at least 5 of them. No, I've only seen the first one. My wife loves them.
Oh, it's Kendra.
Yeah, I've seen all the Resident Evil movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting them mixed up.
Which
they're very different.
Does connect to this in a little bit, too. Actually, Len Wiseman would go on to executive produce the X-Men TV show, The Gifted.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen enough of that.
I was watching it, and then we started this podcast. I was like, I guess I'll just wait till we get to it.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder was again approached to direct this, because he was originally approached, or at least in the running for X-Men 3, but he was too busy not understanding The Watchmen.
Slam.
Yeah. Gavin Hood was brought in based on his film Tootsie, and probably his future middling work on Ender's Game.
You got a lot of opinions on these guys. Interested that they keep approaching Zack Snyder, because I guess I just don't really see...
He's a Warner Brothers guy now, like, through and through.
I just don't see his style fitting, really. Especially since they were bringing him in for, like, after they had already established
it would have
the
to be,
tone.
like, a different character who hasn't been taken... It'd have to be, like, a very original, like, X-Men piece.
Yeah.
It'd be weird coming from X-Men 2 to Zack Snyder's.
To some Zack Snyder.
And then, I guess I could see it doing, like, an origin thing, because maybe then you have this, like, trippy experience, like, it's all in the past.
Yeah.
But still, his style is just so different than anything.
Well, it's very stark.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
So Gavin Hood is quoted in UGO Networks in 2007 that, I realized that the character of Wolverine, I think his great appeal lies in the fact that he's someone who, in some ways, is filled with a great deal of self-loathing by his own nature, and he's constantly at war with his own nature.
Wow, that's really insightful from
Gavin Hood. Yeah, so he understood the character, I guess. You brought this up because you remembered it. But 2007, 2008 was the Writers Guild of America strike.
I remember the writers' strike like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it seems like every time there's something like this that's like kind of...
rough around the edges.
Yeah, rough around the edges. It's like, oh, it was the writers' strike.
Affected a lot of stuff.
Everything.
Yeah, it really did.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote it affected a few movies around this time, but like you said, it seems like every movie was affected.
Every movie and every TV show.
Yeah, that's true. So this caused Fox Studios to rush rewrites before the guild went on strike. Mm-hmm. So James Vanderbilt, not James Vanderbeat, but James Vanderbilt and Scott Silver were charged with such work on this film. So they had to come in and rush rewrite what had already been rewritten by David Benoff.
Just take a break, you know?
In 2013, Hood told IGN that filming was started with an unfinished screenplay and that Los Angeles would send...
Now, I've heard this before. I've heard this before. Did you just tell me this about this movie?
No.
What was another movie that was started filming and they hadn't finished the script yet?
Could be anything. Was it X-Men The Last Stand?
Maybe. Why do they do that?
I don't know.
Finish the script.
It's because...
I mean, I understand if you're going to do tweaking and stuff.
Right.
But, like, have a script and then start filming it.
It's these big-budget movies that get the release date before they go into production.
Well,
because you have to rush the film out before it's ready.
I just don't get it. It just seems like a completely insane way to run things. And you can always tell.
So LA would send the Australian production new scripts pages daily.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes the night before filming. So
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, when you got a star at this point, like Hugh Jackman's a star.
Well,
how does he look at the script and like, so we're not doing the thing that we were gonna do?
So no.
And they're like, sorry, Hugh.
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks for being in this movie still.
I just don't know how you could ever expect to have anything remotely cohesive or meaningful if you're just like piecemealing it throughout the entire process.
I am 100% against Disney buying Fox, but it is hard to defend Fox as an entity alone when you read these things, because it does seem like it's just Fox all the time.
Yeah.
You never read... I just feel like you don't really read, like, I don't know, Lionsgate Studio. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I picked Lionsgate Studio.
Slapshod piece of work.
Yeah. Gavin Hood also got into fights with the studio, specifically about presenting Wolverine as dealing with PTSD from his time in the different wars. Fox didn't think audiences wanted those heavy themes, even though they would then use them in future Wolverine films. And also remember, they didn't want the heavy Dark Phoenix themes in X-Men The Last Stand.
Yeah.
They pushed that out, and then they later made a Dark Phoenix movie.
Yeah. Well,
Fox.
I mean, it's probably a timely kind of a situation.
I guess.
Like, at the time, I could see... I mean, when was this? 2008?
This was 2009. I guess they were making it in 2008.
Okay. I could see... I mean, like, I think audiences are generally ready for things that...
Yeah.
That production companies don't think they're ready for, but
Yeah.
I can understand where that's coming from.
I guess The Dark Knight came out in the summer of 2008, so they had a year between that and this to be like, audiences don't care if we put dark things in movies.
Yeah,
So.
well, this is the beginning of the period where everything was super, super dark, just for the sake of being dark.
Richard Donner, of all people. He's the director of the original Superman movie, and among others. I just picked Superman because it's a superhero podcast.
That's how I know him.
Yeah, he's the husband of Lauren Schuler Donner, who's the producer of the X-Men movies. I don't know if she sent Richard Donner in. Like they were just having dinner one night over pasta. She's like, you need to go to Australia.
Richard.
He was sent in to mitigate. So I guess he had to just be like, well, we're both kind of right. What are you trying
Do you mean
to...
mediate?
Mediate? Mitigate? What's mitigate?
Mitigate is like, there's something happening, you're going to make it happen less. You're going to mitigate
Yeah,
the
he
effects.
mitigated the fighting.
No.
Okay. Well, he mediated anyway.
Disagree.
He helped them stop fighting so much and find common ground.
Okay.
In March 2009...
Between Fox and the director.
Yeah.
Okay.
In March 2009, a full work print of the film, which was DVD quality in its picture, with unfinished effects and audio.
This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see with unfinished effects, because every time, we'll talk about this later, but every time he has the claws, all I can picture is him like miming, just like the thing where he's like, oh, I touched the tip of the claw. I just want to see it without the effects.
That was released online. And
online?
You don't remember this happening?
No.
This happened a few months before the movie was going to be in theaters. Fox has suggested 15 million people downloaded this print.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Fox
didn't know that.
likes to say that the movie took a box office hit because of this, but nobody really buys that.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal. Somebody on Fox News reviewed the unfinished project, which he had downloaded, and then was surprised. And it was Fox. He got fired. He did it on a Fox thing. He got fired.
Wait. So this was on purpose they released this?
No. This was...
I see. So he was
stolen.
like, so I committed a crime on national television.
On Fox.
That's funny.
Who did you think... I just don't know. He was fired.
Maybe they wouldn't notice.
At the time, it was definitely the most high-profile pirate issue, movie-wise. But the movie was released on May 1st, 2009. With a budget of $150 million, it made $180 in North America, which puts it at the 7th grossing film here domestically for the X-Men series. Worldwide, it made $375 million, which puts it at number 9 for the X-Men film series. All those numbers are according to thenumbers.com, because Box Office Mojo...
Oh boy, here we go.
Apparently, is an IMDb company, which is owned by Amazon, and now you have to pay Box Office Mojo a subscription to do film series comparisons.
Yeah,
what
Amazon's
the
worst.
H? I was going to Box Office Mojo when I was a 16-year-old just working as a janitor, just being like, how much money did this make today?
To call the CEO of Amazon.
I was so mad to find that out.
That's very annoying.
Let's talk about casting real quick. Cody Smith McPhee was originally cast as young Wolverine, the little boy in his little nightgown.
Yeah.
But he opted out to film The Road. Smith McPhee...
I didn't like the kid who was young.
Oh my gosh, no.
I didn't understand that casting in the slightest.
Cody Smith McPhee would later go on to play Nightcrawler in X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, that would have made sense.
Tyler Mane wanted to reprise his role because he's a person who wants money and wants to eat, but he didn't get it. Hugh Jackman liked working with Liv Schreiber. Liv Schreiber?
I always call him Leave, but I don't know.
Working with Schreiber in Kate and Leopold.
I hated that movie. I hated Kate and Leopold. I actually don't remember him being in that.
I didn't know he was. But Schreiber put on 40 pounds of muscle for the role.
Yeah, he did.
Brian Cox also wanted to reprise his role as William Stryker, and he thought they would just use the de-aging technology from X-Men 3 to do that. But at that point, it was just so expensive. Ryan Reynolds was cast as Deadpool.
I
skipped. Yeah, so Dominic
Monaghan.
Dominic Monaghan. For a long time, was rumored that he was going to be playing the character Beak from...
I don't know who that is.
He's from Grant Morrison's X-Men run. And then he shows up in some other things. He's the one that looks like a bird human with like a actual beak. But he doesn't. He ended up playing Bradley. Ryan Reynolds was attached to being in a Deadpool film way before this movie came out.
Really?
And that
Based on what? Like, where did that come from? Like, why did they think, yes, Ryan Reynolds
They wanted to make a Deadpool film. Ryan Reynolds was being thrown around a lot. I remember his name was being thrown around for The Flash.
I can see that.
And then he was in the Blade Trinity film. I don't know. I think Deadpool was just one of the properties that was also grabbed up. But it wasn't grabbed up as part of the X-Men line originally, I believe. But the Deadpool film was abandoned because Ryan Reynolds was doing Blade Trinity, and there was talks of doing a Night Stalker spin-off from that film, which didn't happen because Blade Trinity is so bad. And then later he would go on and play Deadpool. But Ryan Reynolds was also a fan favorite online to play Deadpool. Because at the time he was just kind of like a smart aleck character. I mean, what? Two guys, a girl, in a pizza place, Van Wilder. I don't really know where he is at this point career-wise. But I remember liking him.
Yeah, I think at the time he was just one of those people that you're like, oh, he's fun.
Yeah.
And he'd just like show up and stuff and you'd be like, cool.
Yeah, I liked him and I liked him as Deadpool, but I had not seen tons of Ryan Reynolds. Michelle Monaghan turned down the role of Silver Fox.
Oh, her. I like her.
Yeah. Mission Impossible. Sometimes.
Okay.
It's the first one. Source Code, Patriots Day, Eagle Eye, Maid of Honor, Gone, Baby Gone, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
True Detective.
True Detective, season 1. Anyway, she turned down the role of Silver Fox.
Okay.
Josh Holloway, Sawyer from Lost, was rumored to be attached to the role of Gambit, and that was the prevailing rumor for a long time.
Yeah, he would have been a good choice.
I don't know how official it was, but it almost felt like something just didn't work out.
Yeah,
maybe
I remember
it was just
feeling like it was going to be him, too.
It almost seemed like official, and then it didn't. I don't know if it was scheduling or if they just didn't want him or what.
Yeah.
David Harbour was deemed too heavy to play the Blob. So
too heavy?
Because the Blob, in the later part of the movie, is wearing a fat suit. And apparently that can be kind of dangerous to an actor's health. And David Harbour, at the time, was a bit too out of shape. And they were worried about putting him in a fat suit.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Blob fat suit has, like, this cooling system and everything. And so they were just, like, a bit too worried. But, like, in the end, you're just saying, like, he's too heavy to play Blob.
He's too heavy to play the Blob.
Yeah. Apparently, in the casting, I just read this. I can't remember where the interview was. He lifted up his shirt to show his stomach. It was like, I got your Blob right here. And they were like, we're worried about you. So, Hilary, did you see X-Men Origins, Wolverine? Opening night? Opening weekend?
I know I saw
Did you steal the pirated copy? I think the statute of limitations is gone that you can say it. Fox doesn't exist anymore.
I was not up on that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I know I saw it in the theater. I would be surprised if it was the first week. But it was, it was in theaters.
Okay.
It wasn't one that I was like super excited about because, as you know, I don't love Wolverine as a character, but I do love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Okay. I was excited because this movie, I would have now been at the part with X-Men Last Stand where I was unhappy with X-Men The Last Stand.
Okay, so you're looking for redemption?
I had watched it on DVD or whatnot. And yeah, I was looking for redemption. And I sent you a trailer. I bet you didn't watch it.
I did watch it.
You did watch the trailer?
I did watch it because I knew that you would ask me about it.
There have been a few trailers that didn't really do anything for me. But the trailer I sent you, watching it now, I'm like, boy, this isn't a good trailer.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, I thought, like, it was doing stuff. It created a vision of the movie in my head that I thought was going to be cool. I'm like, he's going to spend time with, in the past doing all these things in the war. He's going to spend time with, like, the movie's version of Team X and go on missions and then go against them. And I thought the plot was more going to turn, like, Wolverine against Team X, like, maybe at the end.
Okay.
But also I liked, like, they because it's a trailer, so they're able to do those lines like, if I do this, I'm out for blood, no code of honor, no conduct, or code of conduct, no honor. I'm like, that looks cool. And I even thought, wow, they made him look younger with his hair. Doing that swooshy thing with his hair or whatnot. And so, like, there was stuff about it that I thought, like, okay, I'm back in.
Yeah, I could see that.
I did see it opening weekend. This was the last, like, summer movie me and all my college friends at that time went to go see before we went our separate ways.
Did you hate it right out of the gate?
Okay, yes, we'll say my thoughts at the time were, thought it was better than The Last Stand at the time, and I tried to do a bunch of those Marvel No prizes to fix the continuity errors as I saw them between this and X-Men 2. Mm-hmm. That's the other reason. I was very excited for this because, as you know, I'm a huge X-Men 2 fan. So I thought this was going to change the way I view X-Men 2. Mm-hmm. I just didn't see it doing it the way it did. I was apprehensive after I saw it, thinking it was better than Last Stand, but then it was one that... where X-Men 3 was like, I saw it 3 times in theaters, and I was excited, and then I slowly started realizing, like, oh, this isn't good. And then I came back to it. X-Men Origins was one that I was like, was much quicker. It's like, oh, I didn't like this. There was a video game at the time.
Yeah, I played that game.
You played the DS version, though. Yeah.
I like it.
You're liking the DS version?
I am liking the DS version.
The more popular version is the one that came for Xbox 360 and PS3 that was kind of like a God of War clone where he's like hacking off limbs. There's a frame story where we're seeing him in the future with Sentinels as a Days of Future Past kind of situation. And then it's his origin story of this. It was pretty popular. It was like, people were very surprised. And it is considered the better thing to come out of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Let's talk about the movie.
Okay.
Things don't start off great for me when the Fox logo is there and fades out and the X doesn't last for a second longer, like it always does. Do you not notice these things?
You nitpick.
I didn't with the X-Men movies.
I did not notice that.
Every time.
Had I noticed it, it would not have tainted my feelings about this movie.
Do you know, whenever I watch a Fox movie, even if it's not X-Men, I still hope for the X symbol to last longer. Maybe, because then what I'm actually seeing is an X-Men movie.
So it starts in Canada, right?
Yes, in the 1800s.
The 1800s. So he's legit Canadian.
Yeah.
From the beginning. Well, he spends so much time in the American military that you sort of wonder. But like, they lay him
He really does commit to the Civil War.
Yeah.
And all the other wars, too.
He's on the American side and everything. I wrote down, like, halfway through that sequence, I wrote down, like, there were wars in Canada, too, right? No? Is that
I don't know why. It's interesting that he also ends up in Vietnam. Wolverine couldn't be drafted.
Yeah, well, I get the impression that they were in these wars because this was a thing
This was just what they did, yeah.
And so I think anywhere there was a war, they'd be like, okay, here we go.
So you think they were just... soldiers of fortune.
They were not conscientious objectors.
No, that's true. Yeah. Before we get to all the war stuff,
yeah,
I have to say I do hate the origin bit at the beginning of the movie with the little kid who is in the origin comic before he gets his claws and everything. He is played as like a sickly child and like pampered and everything. So I get, but they just when it's when you hear that kid's voice, it's just ramped up to 11.
Yeah.
So
well, I think I like what they're doing because it's an interesting juxtaposition. Like he's this would-be little kid and then he turns into Wolverine. That's an interesting concept.
But they don't do anything with that.
They don't do anything
That's
with it.
That's not the story of the movie.
And the casting
of that kid.
Just such a waste.
Yeah.
Like I think if they had cast somebody interesting and who like was reminiscent of Hugh Jackman in some way or something, then you could be like, oh, I can see where this is going to come from. Yeah. But it was just...
It's funny because the kid they got to play Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, is terrible and doesn't look like him and all this stuff. But the kid they get to play Victor, and then also Victor's dad, it's like, did they just hire people from Liv Schreiber's family?
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
And that's another thing that I was going to say. In that scene, I think it's really interesting and like weird that they do such a good job casting his dad. Like Logan's dad, like the one he thought was his dad.
Right.
He looks exactly like Hugh Jackman. He talks exactly like Hugh Jackman.
But they don't share blood.
But they're not related.
They're not
related. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why did you even do that? Unless they are placing a question of if he actually is.
Yeah. Because it's the 1800s. They don't know.
There's no real reason to just believe the guy that he's his son.
Yeah.
You know? He could be either.
I'll do a quick summary before we keep doing our deep dive. This is a prequel to the X-Men series. It's Wolverine prior to his memory loss and his adamantium. We see him as a kid. We see him in some wars. We see him join Stryker's Team X. Yep. He goes rogue, but not rogue from the X-Men. He just goes...
Lowercase rogue.
Lowercase rogue. He's tricked into thinking Sabretooth is out killing people, and including his girlfriend at the time. So he gets an adamantium. He finds out he's been betrayed again. Stryker's been creating a super mutant soldier.
Yeah.
And there's a big fight, and then he loses his memory. So that's the story of the movie.
Okay, that's a basic storyline.
I hate the Origin bit. Origin is a 6 issues miniseries, which some people really don't like. Some people don't like. I actually really like the comic. Origin is telling the story of becoming closer in line to the wild Wolverine that we know. So, but this only takes like the last couple panels or the first couple panels of like one issue, and that's it. And so like that's not the story.
Well, all it's giving you, I think, is the relationship between him and Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that scene is really so much about character development for Wolverine.
You're right.
It's just placing him and Sabretooth in their context.
Doing that interpretation of a young Logan because nothing comes of it. It's like there's no follow through. Like when we're watching him then in Vietnam, we're like, oh, because he was this posh child.
Yeah. I don't know that it needs to be like a groundwork for the entire movie aside from just that relationship.
So Victor Creed and Logan, Jim Logan, I guess it is.
Jimmy, yeah.
I have some issues with that.
Such an irritating name.
But so Sabretooth as it is, and Wolverine are brothers in this movie, with Sabretooth being his older brother. 2 things. 1, do you count in the X-Men movies universe the 2 different Sabretooths as one? Does your brain reconcile that?
I think it does.
They never call him Sabretooth. They always just call him Victor.
Yeah.
He's never even given like a code name, Sabretooth. So it's almost like the movie is distancing that from the Sabretooth, which was called Sabretooth in the first movie.
I feel like I do, just because I know that they're the same character.
Right,
But there's not really any way that you can reconcile them.
Yes. Also, do you like the brother relationship?
I do kind of. I do. I think it works, especially when you sort of wonder if they really are brothers, because it ends up putting Victor in kind of a bossy, manipulative kind of position over Wolverine. And like his whole family, like his dad is dead, his mom has rejected him because she's terrible, and then he's at that age, he's gonna cling to this older boy who's like, we're brothers, we're sticking together. And I think it works as a really quick way to be like, they're locked together.
The whole Sabretooth Logan being related thing is because in the comics they're just like, nope. I feel like the whole Wolverine and Logan aren't related things being the official stance of the comics was less than stellar, because so long it was hinted that Sabretooth, and Chris Claremont's idea was Sabretooth was Wolverine's father.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And he calls him old man a lot, which he does in this movie.
So there's like there's that, which, and then the comics they just got so convoluted, and there were so many questions that the comics were just like, nope, not related at all. And I just think that's sort of unsatisfying. Yeah. Because their connection is so strong. I can see a case for them not being related, and maybe like if they are, then it's too much. I don't know. So I tend, when movies or anything play around with, are they related? Are they father and son? Are they brothers? I tend just not to care. Yeah. Because the comics also just kind of made it unsatisfying.
Yeah. So. Well, I think like a lot of things with Wolverine's character, it all sits better if there's uncertainty. Yeah. So like for the comics to be like, they're not related, whatever. Yeah. It takes away a lot because like you don't have to think they're related, but like the mystique is very appealing. Mystique.
This movie, as it was starting, as the opening credits were starting, which we can talk about in a second, it did make me realize that we're entering prequel world now for the X-Men movies, a world we'll never really come back from. Yeah. So though the Wolverine movies will get past that. With both films. The next 2 films will be sequels to will be future films. But
they just don't really
starting now, the general X-Men line. Prequels.
Yep. So prequels.
All right, the war montage.
I love the war montage. Let me tell you what. I love it. I love the transition. They're running in the woods, and then they're running, and then it's like part of the credits. So it's not too much like, what's happening? We need to figure this out. It's not part of the story, but it lays such good groundwork for their relationship. It lays great groundwork for how they've become the kinds of people that they ultimately become. You see so much from Hugh Jackman watching Sabretooth develop into like that. You just see so much of the schism in just that sequence where they're together. Sabretooth does something weird, and you just see Wolverine being like, I don't know about that.
Right.
And Hugh Jackman is just so good at being Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's just so good. He's just so good.
Oh,
but,
boy.
like, all you see, there's no dialogue, there's nothing. All you see is his face.
Yeah.
And it's so complex because it's never like, I don't know about this, or like, hey, stop. Yeah. It's always very subtle, and like him, it's a very complex reaction. And you see it just the right number of times.
Right.
I love the part where they're in Vietnam and Sabretooth is like shooting. And Wolverine tries to stop him, can't stop him, has to move the entire helicopter. I just think it's really well done. I think it does a lot. It made me think of the first movie in that respect, that it does a lot of groundwork in just a little bit of time. Yeah. That's how I feel about that. How do you feel about it, Eric?
It is probably my favorite part of the movie, outside of 2 jokes that come up in the film.
Okay.
For me, I guess there's still more that I wish we could do or see. I don't know. It leaves me unsatisfied because I know what's coming after that montage. And it just feels like there's something there in the montage
that they don't flesh out.
Yeah. I guess it's just like, because they're cruising through different storylines at such rapid speed, and then the storyline they pick is not one I'm super stoked about. I guess I wish maybe the movie was more the concept of like the immortal. Is, it feels like, you know, a strong premise that we as a society like latch onto. Like the person who's living long, past all these days and has seen all these things. And so X-Men is in that world where it can do that. And I just, it makes me wish maybe we were watching a movie about this Wolverine. But
like
again,
about the fact that he's
been living this long, and we can see like that wearing on him. But like, you know, we've read Fox didn't want the darker theme, so they wanted more of an action, in which is, there's action in there. I guess I'm just saying, for me, I like the montage. I just wish that was more. I just feel like there's stuff there, and I wish we could hold on to that longer. Yeah. And then we meet Stryker. Yep. Who is played by Danny Huston. You know, I'll just say it now. I hate Danny Huston's face, and I don't like Danny Huston in general. I think he has a dumb, stupid face. And
oh my gosh. I am so sorry, Danny Huston, who is definitely listening to this podcast.
I didn't care for his dumb face in 30 Days a Night. I didn't care for his dumb face in Wonder Woman. It's just...
He's in Wonder Woman?
Yeah, he plays the bad guy, the general.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
He looks both like an 80-year-old man and like a 17-year-old frat boy.
Yeah,
and so I
see that.
I don't like him.
Yeah.
So I guess as we talk about this movie, just keep in mind that I'm biased and Hilary is certifiable.
Eric hates his stupid face.
But yes, we meet Stryker, who's telling him he's putting together a team with privileges and all this stuff.
I love that line because it's just so... There's something about like the space around him in the shot or something, but it's just so like the movie just stops and it's like, I'm forming a special team, and it just doesn't fit. It's funny, organically.
I want to know what like the special privileges are in like their head, because for Victor, it's just like, cool, I get to kill people indiscriminately. For Wolverine, it's like, oh, I guess I get to get like HBO or something, because like later on,
HBO.
When they're on their first mission, Wolverine's like, why are we here? He's like, we didn't sign up for this. I'm like, well, what did you sign up for, Wolverine? You just went to Nam.
Well, I think he's probably got in his head that it's like doing good things without restraint. Like you'll kill people, but like bad people. And so when they're in the village and they're just gonna like slaughter a bunch of innocents for no reason, then I could see that being the line.
Like you said, they're in Vietnam and they're causing issues. Victor is about to rape a woman.
Yeah, he throws her on the bed.
A soldier comes in and stops him. Victor starts killing soldiers. Yep. And Wolverine, because he's his brother, takes his side.
Yeah, well, I think that's cool because he tries to... It's another moment of complexity in their relationship because he definitely tries to stop him. Yeah. Like, he would not let him do that. Right. And he stops him, or tries to stop him from killing the soldiers.
Right. But then when it's too late...
he does take the stand with Victor.
Would you say it's his last stand?
It's his first stand.
Oh yeah, I guess that's it.
But yeah, I think it's good to see.
Will Wolverine's first stand be his last?
Sorry. He's got his standards and
his last standards.
I can't stop saying the word stand. And he'll stand up to his brother.
Right.
But
he'll also stand up against those.
But he's not going to let anybody hurt him.
Right. which is funny because what I guess I don't get about this moment is just like, oh no, they're gonna hurt Sabretooth, who can heal from anything and can be shot a bunch of times. Instead, they're like, we'll kill the soldiers who are threatening my brother who can heal, but the soldiers can't heal.
Well, I don't remember specifically, but I don't think that Logan kills any of the soldiers. He pushes people down.
His claws
come
out.
I think you see a difference in how he treats them and how Sabretooth treats them.
It still just feels a bit like maybe keep taking the side of just the boys who can't.
It's true.
The boys who are doing good and can't heal.
But like hundreds and hundreds of years of like it's us against the world.
Yeah.
It's also.
I guess after a while people start becoming expendable.
Yeah.
Because I mean they're gonna be gone anyway.
Right.
This should technically be taking place.
Oh boy.
No,
I can't do the timeline.
It's fine. No, I didn't think I could either with this movie, but I think we still can because I thought this movie had issues that you can't connect. But I think what you can do is you put all this Wolverine and Vietnam stuff after where we meet Wolverine in the 70s in Days of Future Past, because Wolverine goes back in time, takes over his old body. He's still got the bone claws. He's in America and everything. I think what you do then is you just say that Wolverine is not in Nam yet, but he's going over there.
Okay.
Which doesn't make too much sense because Nam is ending, so I guess they just wanted to get him while the getting was good. It's hard. It breaks the brain to try to reconcile this
technically,
stuff.
we could maybe make it work.
That's right. We see a plane. They're flying to Africa. Oh, but the plane is some terrible CGI. And with retrospect and knowing what's to come, it's just like this it begins.
Here's the level we're at. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I was just like, boy, I didn't realize how bad this CGI plane was. But it's just like, it just kind of, when you know what's coming, you're like, yep, we're in for a rough CGI time. I don't understand the issues the CGI has in this movie. We're talking a $150 million budget.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre choices for how bad the CGI is throughout the whole film. But also the things they choose to CGI.
Yes, exactly.
When, Wolverine should be the cheapest character in the world.
Yeah.
To just give him fake claws. I don't understand where the money went.
I'm just going to jump, since we're talking about this, I'm just going to jump forward for a second to when he's in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, the
and
CGI
he breaks
claws.
The sink and stuff. Because they make it like a highlight. They're like, look at these claws. Look at what we're doing with these claws.
I'll jump ahead.
Why? They look so stupid.
I'll jump ahead and say the claws do not look good once during this movie. Especially the first time we see them in the tank when they pop out. I'm like, oh my gosh, how hard? They've made them for 3 movies.
I know. And they had to have just made the decision, like, we are going to CGI the crap out of these and it's going to be amazing. And they just completely whiff it.
They didn't have the assets from prior movies?
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think they must have just made the decision. Like, we're not going to do that anymore for a reason of some kind.
Yeah. Let's just talk about Team X.
So let's skip ahead. Let's go back.
Let's talk about Team X.
Back to the plane.
Real quick. The people who make up Team X. You got John Wraith, played by Will.i.am.
Yes, interesting choice.
This was also at a time where some Black Eyed Peas members are acting because... So Will.i.am is in this. Taboo played Vega in Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
That's so interesting. I will say that having found out after... I just found out that it was Will.i.am. I didn't know who that was at the time. He does a better job than I would have expected a singer to do in a movie.
He's a person.
But someone who's not acting isn't their specialty. He does an okay job. He's not great, but he's okay.
Who else is on this team? You have Kevin Durand as Fred Dukes.
I like him.
He played Barry Burton in one of the Resident Evil movies.
Okay.
Dominic Monaghan as Chris Bradley, Bolt. Monaghan,
also like him.
Daniel Henney as Agent Zero.
He's just okay.
And then Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, who is later dubbed Deadpool. So that's this Team X. I like the concept of Team X. Yeah. I like the concept of Wolverine being in a team before he gets his adamantium and everything. Working with Sabretooth and that. There's just something about this team that's just a bit derpy, I think.
See, that's interesting to me because this is one of the highlights of the movie for me. Getting to see Wolverine with peers.
Yeah.
And interacting in kind of a standard member of a, troop.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And, like, I feel like the interactions are pretty equal,
which
you don't get once he's
Wolverine. The big issue I have isn't this version of Team X and, like, the actors playing them and whatnot. It's more when they go in to do their job, they're not a covert team.
Yeah, that's true.
They're a showy team.
Yeah, they're not covert, and their powers aren't particularly useful.
Yeah, because, like, Agent Zero, he's just, like, fast at guns.
Yeah.
Wade is just, he can spin his sword fast enough to deflect bullets.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of becomes, like, it reminds me of, like, the Suicide Squad movie, where it's like she's putting together this team to fight Superman, but it's just, like,
none of
soldiers.
Them has anything that would be particularly
it's just
useful.
Gun powers and bat powers and punching powers.
That's true.
So... I mean, you have...
Wolverine and Sabretooth...
And Blob.
...are very clearly in their own league.
Right.
On that team.
Blob has super strength.
And it's funny, too. Yeah. It's funny, too, that when Wade has his big moment, which I think is a very cool moment, but when he has his big moment, then Stryker's like, if you didn't talk so much, you'd be the perfect soldier. And I'm like... Would he? I mean, is this the specific skill that is, like, the perfect soldier?
I think it's because he does whatever they tell him to.
Okay. Well, something else I'll say about this team. This is my favorite Deadpool from Ryan Reynolds. I like it because it is restrained.
Yeah.
And I like that he's the way he is in a context. Yeah. Rather than just letting loose and just being completely wacky, because I just like the restraint. I think balances things nicely.
I tend to prefer smarter restrained humor over fart jokes and look at his crotch jokes of the first Deadpool movie. I do think Deadpool 2 is funnier.
Yeah,
and
my
smarter
husband
in its
says
humor.
that he thinks I'll like that better, so I should see that.
Well, save it for when we watch it. Yeah, I really like Ryan Reynolds. He's funny in all the stuff. I don't like the CGI sword spinning. Because I think it's... I
don't remember thinking about the CGI-ness of it. No. I just think it's a good scene.
Yeah.
He just, like, goes out. Like, all you see is him being a smart aleck. And then he is just in it. Like, he walks out of the elevator, which, by the way... elevator scene is funny when the music's playing, It doesn't matter how many times people do it. It is always funny. Yeah. It's always funny. You know exactly what's happening, but it's still funny. He gets out of the elevator... And he is just completely turned on to this, like, I'm gonna just kill everybody. He does it. And then it's all kind of cool. And then it's over, and he's, like, funny again.
Yeah.
I think it's
people
really
are dead.
Yeah.
I like Ryan Reynolds in this role. This is the last time we see Ryan Reynolds in this role.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Which is weird. Did they do something with his eyes?
I think he films close-ups.
Okay.
He was doing other films at the time. I think The Proposal might have been something else he was doing.
Proposal! Let's do all of the spin-off or all, like, movies that people in these movies were in.
Oh, man, we have to watch Van Helsing then.
That's another one that I sort of like.
Oh, you and my cousin-in-law. Also, hey, we learned that Wolverine hates flying for the first time, which was the thing in the second movie. Which is
another thing that I really like, because you just see him more human in this movie.
But he didn't like flying in the other ones.
He didn't like flying.
In the second movie, he's like, oh, don't do that again, I hate flying.
But in the first movie, he's still, like, Wolverine. And then you see, like, little glimmers of, like, oh, he gets sick when he flies. But, like, in this
Did you just announce Wolverine into a 2D fighting game?
Yeah, Wolverine.
Cyclops. So you didn't have the catchphrase for Wolverine,
but, like, in this
time
movie,
to get scratched.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Oh, okay,
I announce him, you do the voice.
Adamantium tasting time, bub.
But I like
that hurts.
I like that aspect of this movie, particularly, that you see him as... And it's before he loses his memory. And I think that him having no memory plays into his character development a lot for the other movies. So since it's before he's lost his memory, you see a different version of the character.
Right.
And I like it.
15 minutes in, we're at, like, the village where they're asking the guy about the meteor.
15 minutes in?
15 minutes. I paused because I had a thought about it. Wolverine says, he's telling the truth, because the guy's like, I don't know where we found the meteor.
Yeah.
And Wolverine says, telling the truth. And it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, he hasn't talked in a while. So I paused it. It was like 15 minutes into this Wolverine origin movie, it has not felt like we've had a lot of Wolverine. We've seen a lot of the team, and Ryan Reynolds, and Danny Houston, and Victor, and Wolverine reacting to things quietly.
Which he does very well.
But it just was like, boy, it's taken a long time to get to this being a Wolverine movie. The general, like, joke with the first 3 X-Men movies is that they are the Wolverine and the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
But what I kind of noticed when we were watching X-Men 2 and The Last Stand is that, especially when I was watching Last Stand, was that they're actually better at the ensemble than like that like mentality would have us believe. And when watching The Last Stand, Wolverine really is just like, he's the popular character, but it's still very much an X-Men movie.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that impression comes from the first movie definitely being like that. And then him just being a very strong, likable
X-Men
character.
2 is very much based around his story because of Stryker and everything. But they're better at being the ensemble than we think.
You're right.
And so, like, it's interesting because this would technically now be, like, the first Wolverine, but it's still... Our first 15 minutes are... Again, Wolverine in an ensemble, which I think is interesting because the joke's the other way, but now I'm like, but this one is very much,
It's his name in the title.
Yeah, and when he leaves because he doesn't like what Team X is doing. I don't think they ever called them Team X.
I really like how they portray their reactions to him because he's not a leader on the team. He's never presented as a leader or as like anybody, but you very much see the other team members. They're very aware of him. Yeah. They're very aware of like his small things. Like it's obvious in the part where they say something about killing everyone and he just kind of shakes his head a little bit. That's an obvious moment. Right. But they do a good job of having his presence be weighted on the other members of the team. And even when they're like Ryan Reynolds does whatever Stryker says. Right. But when Wolverine is like, I'm done, he freezes. Like, he's like, I guess we're not doing that right now. So, like, even him, who's, like, the most in tune with what Stryker says, he still is impacted by just kind of, like, Wolverine's whims. Because Wolverine's not, like, declaring that the team is going to do anything.
Team's over.
Yeah. But they're all very affected by him.
But when he leaves, because they do start shooting everybody, he's like, I'm out of here, I quit and everything. And Sabretooth's like, we got a good thing going for us, come on! Yeah. Sabretooth starts yelling, Jimmy. He's like, Jimmy! Jimmy! But then, after this, everybody starts calling him Logan. Yeah. And I just don't... Is he James Logan?
Yeah, I think he's James Logan.
Because he's not, and in other movies, they give him the James Howlett name, which is from the comics. But it's just, they never call him, I don't know where, it just seemed like Logan came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I guess I was always interpreting it as his name is James Logan. Yeah. They call him Logan because that's a thing that men do.
Sorry, especially in college.
And then Sabretooth calls him Jimmy as like a familial.
Yeah. It's just not... We never heard his name being Jim
no one's been like, James Logan.
I remember the first time I watched him, like, when did he become Logan?
Yeah.
It does
just sort of happen.
Yeah. You have to assume that is his last name. Or his pet name, I guess. Also in the village, you can see it in the trailer that I sent you, actually. There's a young Storm, a little kid Storm. There's a little girl with the white hair. And then there's that lightning flash as he's leaving. And I think it's supposed to be Storm reacting to that. All that's going on. Oh, because that's her village. And then we meet Silver Fox, played by whatever her name is.
Her first appearance, I feel like, is really good.
Lynn Collins,
because she's just like she comes out of the.
I just watched this last night. What's her first? Okay, cabin. He's staring in the mountains. Her face is
just so fresh and like, there's just something about it that's like Wolverine has found someone who is completely innocent. She's just this like.
Is she?
Well, but that, like, I just think it's a good image. Where he's gone through all of this violence, he leaves at the peak of violence and goes to Canada again, and it's just I think it's a really crystallized moment of this is what he has chosen now.
Right. I know you don't care about this stuff at all, which makes this podcast the hardest podcast in the world. Kayla Silver Fox, her powers are not. Psycho manipulation, physical contact manipulation. She's just a healer and longevity in the comics. Okay. So it's just something added.
That's
and
a
I believe
thing.
We'll talk about it at the end, but I believe they gave her those powers for one reason and one reason only.
So that they could use them?
They could use them at the end of the movie.
Yeah. It's a very good use. I'll tell you what.
She shows up in the cartoon.
Silver Fox, is that the name of those bugs? Silverfish.
Yeah, silverfish.
Silver Fox is I was like, that sounds like a cool name, but isn't that just a bug? But no, it's silverfish.
Silver Fox is the name of a man who is aging gracefully into his gray.
Yes, okay.
I remember reading some reviews saying, like, we're watching Wolverine, but he's not Wolverine during this movie. Which is the point of, like, a prequel Wolverine movie, to see how he becomes Wolverine. But then it's like, what parts of these aren't Wolverine, and what parts of them are Wolverine?
Yeah. Because
there's the part where she's like, hey, are you forgetting something? And he has to come over and kiss her in front of the boys, and they all laugh, and he's so shy.
Showing affection.
But it's so funny because he's just like, and the guys are laughing. He's like, I'll get you guys.
I guess I don't have...
I don't even like her.
I don't have trouble with... I mean, that was a dumb moment. But, like, I don't have trouble with him being a more vulnerable character.
Right, no.
Particularly because it's presented as him making a conscious choice to be a different kind of person.
It's the portrayal of this pre-Wolverine Logan. It gets kind of confusing sometimes, because sometimes he's like that, and then it's very much the same Wolverine that we've known.
Yeah, I don't think I would say... I'm kind of surprised that people present it that way, because I wouldn't say it's pre-Wolverine Wolverine. I think that he is... I mean, he's had hundreds of years of being a violent person.
I think just 100.
Whatever.
It's like 1880-something when we first meet him.
Okay, fine. But then, like... I think that it's just presenting him as a more complex character. Not he is sometimes Wolverine and he's sometimes this nice guy.
Sometimes this super shy guy.
I think it's just...
Shy guy.
He has a thing that he has always wanted. He's always wanted, like, a family. He's always wanted, like, peace. But he has this inherent violence to him. And I think it's more of a, like, complex, like, battling against himself kind of thing, rather than inconsistency in what kind of character he's supposed to be.
Right.
That's my interpretation.
I find the movie, personally, on my own...
It's like therapy. You always have to say, I feel.
It seems like it has so much happening so fast, and yet it also seems to move very slowly at times. And so, for myself, I find I get bored, but also things are happening so quickly. I'm like, oh, we're here now. It's strange.
That is strange.
I think the Kayla stuff, as she's never called Silver Fox in this, all the Kayla stuff with Wolverine living his cabin life and everything bores the living crap out of me. And it is not helped by this stupid Moon story.
Oh, man. I wrote that down. The cut into that is so bizarre.
Why is the Moon lonely? It used to have a lover.
And then there's just like this immediate cut. And she's just standing in the kitchen and she's like, oh, by the way, I have a story to tell.
When she tells that story, I'm just like, F you, movie.
Yeah, it's a very bad moment.
He's named the Wolverine because it was a story of... Anyway.
It's a terrible moment.
Yeah.
No arguments here.
I like Wolverine's reactions. It's funny because we've talked about him being like the audience surrogate in the other movies. He's absolutely my surrogate in this film.
Is. Yeah, I wrote that down.
When he's like, oh, this is a true story. Then I'm like, yes, line. You're right. This is a dumb thing that's happening.
I love that line. Yeah, he like, there's no saving that scene, but if there were, it would be his comments.
Our first Team X person is killed, Bradley. Dominic.
So you don't like that character? I think he's really interesting.
I guess it's like, it's a fun portrayal, just this kind of like, he's happy to be whatever. I don't really hate the character. He just doesn't have anything for me.
Yeah. I guess part of it is that I really like Dominic Monaghan, so that probably sells it a lot for me.
I like him in that.
But yeah, I mean, he's fine. He's useful when he's in the team.
Yeah.
But then I think it's a really good representation. It's interesting to have him be in a circus where there are circus freaks and stuff. And I like how simple his life is in that. And that he's not depressed.
And then he gets super murdered.
He's not lonely. Yeah. He's not like this sad mutant.
There was a part of me...
He found a thing that works for him and he likes it.
You know what? We didn't talk about this in our history. This is the first time I've watched this movie in years. and I mean like years.
I feel like I watched it like a year ago.
I watched it when it was in theaters. I probably watched it again on DVD, and then that was it.
Really?
I didn't even own...
Didn't you watch it with me and Nick when we were watching through all the movies?
No, did not.
Huh.
Didn't even own this for a while. But then after Days of Future Past came out, and I was looking at my DVDs, I'm like, oh no, the completist! The complete! But so now I own them all, it's fine. So this is the first time I've watched it in 9 years, maybe?
Wow.
Anyway, Dominic's fine. For me, his role isn't big enough or complex enough for me to feel either way about it. He's good in the scenes, but like I just don't have much, and
I guess a lot of what I like about this movie in general is just small character moments rather than anything else.
But I like his interaction with the girl. Listen, it had been so long since I'd watched this movie, I couldn't remember if the blonde girl from the carnival was also supposed to be Emma later on.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was something. Which
they did something with that couple before they get to Dominic. That looks like they're gonna be something.
Yeah, and it's her reaction to Dominic's to Bolt like him. She's still like intrigued by him. I'm like, is she? But then it's a different actress and not the character. Yeah. But it seems like you could have, I don't know, saved money, cast one actor.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. But I guess for like the timeline, maybe Emma has to be captured at that point. Because it sounds.
Oh yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. Yeah.
But I like that. I like his interaction with them. I love his interaction with Sabretooth. I think it's perfect. It's such a. I would be really interested to know what's going on with the directing in this movie because it's not consistent enough to be like, yes, this is a thing. Yeah. But there are several moments that feel like they're just like these windows into a genre, like a war movie. Yeah. There's a Western in there. It just seems like there are these very obvious moments.
There's that great line like where Bolt is, I'm not afraid of dying, and Victor's like, how do you know? You've never tried. Yeah. I'm like, that's a great line. I love that line. And I guess I'll say this now. Schreiber, he is one of those, he's an actor in this movie. I put him in
an actor in this movie.
I put him in the list of actors of great performances in bad movies.
Yeah.
I put him in the same one as Mark Strong as Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie.
Okay.
And just all these other like actors who do like these really great performances. Or Raul Julia in Street Fighter of people who just give it their all and play the character. Like great.
I think he does a really good job.
Like he plays a great Sabretooth. Mark Strong played a great Sinestro, but they get put into these, bad movies that people don't like and then they don't get any follow through.
Yeah.
And so I think Schreiber is the one who comes away probably even better than Hugh Jackman is always going to be the best Wolverine there is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he can kind of play the role in his sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So Liv Schreiber's the only actor besides.
Standout.
Yeah.
Because nobody's surprised by Hugh Jackman being good at it.
So, like, if in Logan, in the future sequels, Logan or the Wolverine, had Liv Schreiber showed up, I would have been more excited to see him than, say, like, Tyler Mane reprising the character. Yeah.
I don't know that Tyler Mane has the range
I don't think he has
for the kind of character that he was doing.
Yeah, so I think Liv Schreiber is just, in this role, it's just one of those that, like, it's too bad he never also got redemption in ways. But I guess I don't think anybody hates him in this role. So, and I think people wanted to see him in Logan as well. I think people were excited at the possibility. So I think he's just, I think he doesn't have anything to apologize. Yeah, Schreiber.
He does a great job.
So, and he didn't have script say.
That's an interesting thing. Him and what's his name? The guy with the guns.
Zero.
I think it's really interesting to have both those characters in the movie because they're sort of like two different kinds of psychopath. Liev Schreiber is just, not Liev Schreiber. The character Victor is very like, he relishes it. Yeah. He's very emotional about it. And then Zero's very cold about it. I think it's really interesting to have both those sides.
I don't know if this will mean anything to you. Zero is Maverick. Maverick from the X-Men. He wears that big orange fish mask sometimes, hangs out with Silver Fox a lot. They're in an episode, Weapon X, Lies and Videotape of the animated series.
I've definitely seen that, but I don't remember.
Not like this super stone cold killer that Zero is, who's like showing off how cool he can shoot cigars. Which also is like an easy effect to do. Why is the cigar shooting so bad looking?
That was a bad moment. I don't know. Like the pacing of it was
editing,
weird.
Yeah. Because that's an editing trick. You just have him hold one cigar and then you put a fake cigar. Yeah. But they don't.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird moment.
There's no practical effects in this movie.
I am very strong proponent of practical effects.
Every time they have a chance to do an easy practical, they choose not to.
Well, it looks real because it is real. I can't...
It's Israel?
Yep.
When Stryker comes to talk to Wolverine and like, join the team, join back up the team, Sabretooth's off killing people, I can't control him.
Yeah.
And Logan is leaving. Stryker's like, I know you, Wolverine. I'm just like, do you?
Yeah.
You worked with him once.
It was like for 4 months.
You don't know him.
Yeah, you don't know him. But
Wolverine also gives his famous comic book slogan. Oh, you're more excited for it than I am.
I'm the best there is at what I do. He said it.
But it's just the delivery, and it's in a truck. He's driving home from work.
Yeah, you don't like him with Kayla.
No, it's not just... It's just like, that's I don't know. It's like if I was just eating a bowl of pasta. I was like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm the best there is at what I do.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
What I do is eat pasta.
That's what I like about it, because it's a familiar line, and it's usually a melodramatic line.
Yeah.
And we're not there with him yet. Like, if he delivered it at the very end of it, maybe, I don't know. I think it worked.
I don't like
you
it.
want him to be just, like, standing with his claws out
No.
and be like, I'm the best there is at what I do, and here I come!
No, there's a cooler way to deliver it. Maybe have somebody else deliver it. Maybe somebody who's like...
the best there is at what he does.
And what he does. Yeah. I mean, the whole what I do isn't very nice is kind of like a cheeky line.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. Hey, also, Fox Forest.
We
spend a lot of time in the Fox Forest.
There's a moment later on, driving around, and the helicopter is chasing him. And he is very clearly in a very tall tree forest. And then every time they look up at the helicopter, it's like they're like in like 10-foot tall forest. It drives me crazy.
CGI, not practical effects. Sabretooth is walking over to Kayla and scratching the car. Worst CGI scratch. It's just like, you can do that. How expensive is practical effects? I thought practical effects were the cheaper option.
Well, I mean, you have to build the thing. That moment, though, I think is a moment of pretty good acting from her, because once you know the end of it, you can see in her that she's doing both. I need to look like I'm scared of this person, and like, I know what this is. I'm regretting this situation. Like, you see both of those things in her face.
Yeah.
That's some good acting from her.
What's not great is when Wolverine wakes up from his war dreams and she's got claw marks on her arms.
That are like the smallest little tiny claw marks.
But then she's like, they're just a scratch. I'm like, you can still bandage them. She's bleeding on the sheets.
That is one of my pet peeves. Whenever Wolverine has scratched something in the past, and it's just like finger scratches, like there's spacing.
Yeah.
We know what the spacing is between your claws, and it's bigger than that.
The bone claws in the movies, and because they show up a few more times in both Days of Future Past and The Wolverine, they never seem like they're effective at all in anything.
Well, I don't know why they would be. They're just bare bones.
But they should just, like, they never seem sharp enough. So, like, when people are like, oh no, I'm like, yeah. And then here's where I was about to say the plotting falls apart. Here's where the plotting really falls apart for this guy, pointing at myself.
For Eric.
They trick Wolverine into thinking that she's killed. We think the audience is supposed to believe Kayla has been killed by Victor. But it's a trick. And they're tricking Wolverine. She takes one of those things that makes you think she's dead. They cover her in blood and everything.
Is that a real thing? They always use that in movies.
I know.
Is that a real thing?
I don't know. It's just fake blood in the thing. It's
just fake blood.
Wolverine could be like, wait a second. There's no claw marks.
I think
what did he do with her body? Just leave her in the woods?
Oh, that's a good point.
I
think you're supposed to think that he's just, like, so distraught and, like, he knows, I mean, he, like, ran that whole way. He knows that Sabretooth is coming. He knows what Sabretooth does. Yeah. It could be.
You think he leaves the body and just runs after Victor?
That he sees it. He has known in his mind that she was going to be dead. He sees her. She's dead. It's finally happened. He doesn't really need confirmation, and he just leaves.
I guess.
Which, in a world, I could imagine that. But the fact that he's supposed to have, like, sliced her open... I mean, if it's really just blood on her clothes, it's very apparent that she's not been sliced open.
And, I mean, they said they were doing something to trick his senses with the blood and the thing. But, like, I don't buy his senses would be tricked in that situation.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a very specific thing to smell. But also, it's so simple. Because you've shown that she has this power to persuade.
Oh.
It would just be so simple to then show her, like, touching his foot or something and convincing him of that.
Yeah. But then the audience would know.
No, but show that later, like in the cut.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good solution.
There's just these like tiny. Anyway.
Yeah.
The camera work kills me in this movie. It is all over the place. Yeah. It's like sometimes it's zooming in for no reason. Sometimes it's like doing these weird crane shots. I don't. So like when Wolverine busts into the bar, he's like, Victor! Yeah. It like zooms in, but not enough, but also in such an obvious way.
Yeah, it seems like it's with the cameras and all that kind of, and the shots that they do. It seems very intentional, but not consistent. And it's like in any given scene, they'd be like, oh, it'd be cool if it did this.
That scene where he opens the door and everything, and the camera zooms. It's almost like that bum bum bum.
Yeah.
It seems like almost like as a parody in terms of his camera work sometimes. It's crazy.
So he goes after Sabretooth.
They're fighting. Yeah, they're fighting. It's a big fight with logs.
I like the thing with the before the fight starts,
the guy with the
Sabretooth
insurance
is in there. Yeah, and he's like, too bad. No insurance.
The guy's like, what? No? I'm just a simple bar owner. It's a barn.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that part. And then it's like a super brutal fight.
I guess, but it's also bloodless.
I wrote down...
Everything in this movie is bloodless.
That's true.
But I mean...
I wrote log fight. Stabby, stabby, crushy, crushy.
Yeah, a lot of stabby, stabby, crushy, crushy. I guess I can't really attack this movie for being bloodless because Wolverine's claws have been very bloodless. Like they go in, they come out nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
People don't lose limbs.
That is a noticeable thing when they come out and you can see it's like you're coming out of a body and it's just nothing.
But I guess I just think if you're going for a Wolverine origin movie, you can do a little bit more blood, and we've already seen. In a previous movie, a Wolverine Sabretooth fight. And a bloodless one at that. So, like, this one, it just seems like, I don't know, it bothered me more in this than the other X-Men movies. Because with the X-Men movies, you can be like, well, they're the X-Men movies, they're for everybody. But now we're focusing on the beclawed hero.
Yeah, and I think there must be something about the camera shots or something. Because I don't think
it seems
I ever
more
noticed
obvious.
it in the early movies. I don't think I was ever like, well, where's the blood?
Right.
Like, there's something
in
about
the other
it
movies,
in
we
this
always
one that
see
stands
his...
out.
Like, we get, like, a waist up shot. So, like, and then they go... So we know the claws are in, but we don't see them a lot of times.
Yeah, this one you see them coming out of a body.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And maybe it's because the effects look so bad that it's even more noticeable.
The effects look so bad.
So I'm not necessarily somebody who wants Logan-level claw effectiveness, but I think there's just a way to make it... everything that Sabretooth and Wolverine are doing to each other in this fight, where, like, being shown is supposed to be brutal, but there's just something holding it back.
Yeah.
It seems still very toothless.
Yeah.
Tooth and clawless.
At the very end of the scene is the thing that I was going to say earlier.
Where he breaks.
There is just...
See, but that's practical effects. So that's why it's so, like, painful to us to watch.
Is. And it's so funny because, like, there is no concept in... like nature of there being bones outside of a body.
Yeah.
But there's such a visceral reaction to that, him being so exposed and then just like snapping off.
Yeah. I think it says something that of all the things you see in like the future, in the Days of Future Past, where Xavier goes into Wolverine's mind to believe him, and he's like, "You've seen so much pain and everything." That's one of the scenes they show, just the foot tromping down, because it's like, well, that has been a painful thing that's happened to Wolverine. It's like one of the most memorable Wolverine gets the crap beat out of him moments. Yeah. So, you know, kudos to them for doing that.
Yeah.
Jeez. This is the part where I'm not really sure. This and, like, in the future, we know that Sabretooth has this, like, competitive... I guess we're supposed to believe Sabretooth is also competitive with Wolverine. I don't know where this competitiveness... I'm tired.
I think it's an inferiority thing.
Yeah.
If you want to get really into the psychology...
Because Sabretooth's claws seem more effective than Wolverine's claws.
Yeah, I think if you want to get into the psychology, it goes way back to their upbringing.
Yeah.
Where he's this, like, lower class kid, the son of a servant. Wolverine is, like, the aristocratic guy. So he's just got that embedded in him, feeling like like, he can't just accept that he's stronger than Wolverine. He needs to constantly be proving it.
I just think the transition between the Jimmy, don't leave, Sabretooth, and the I've killed your girlfriend and I'm breaking your bones.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a smoother way to show that Sabretooth is resentful of him that I don't necessarily...
Well, I think, too...
I guess we're supposed... You know, he's always been holding him back, so maybe this is Sabretooth 6 years without Wolverine holding him back.
Yes, which I think that is part of it.
And he knows Wolverine's gonna heal, and he didn't really kill his girlfriend.
Exactly. And in that moment, he is acting as an agent of someone else. And he's sort of playing a part.
Yeah.
I think he is more brutal in his treatment of Wolverine than he would normally be, because his job in that moment is to be the villain that Wolverine is going to come after.
Right. Danny Houston as Stryker shows up and is like, "I told you." Wolverine gives that whole code of conduct, no honor speech, and is convinced that he'll go after Sabretooth by getting him the claws. Stryker says, like, "As I recall, you volunteered." So I guess this is Wolverine volunteering for the procedure. But it still doesn't seem like... We talked about this in X-Men 2 and X-Men 3. X-Men 2 set stuff up, and other people chose not to follow that through. So I can't... The frustration I feel is, you know, Bryan Singer chose to not do X-Men 3. He chose to do Superman Returns. So he chose not to do that and follow that stuff up. So different people had different priorities. I get that, like, they're not gonna stick to that, because in X-Men 2, the whole, like, viewing it as a series, you know, the same characters in all these stories, the line, "As I recall, you volunteered," in the second movie, we're to assume that, like, this is a darker Wolverine who volunteered to do this procedure and everything for darker purposes, or maybe a Wolverine who doesn't care. And so, like, it doesn't fulfill that X-Men 2 line, but I guess it still checks the box, like, and Wolverine volunteered.
Yeah.
So technically it fills that. I think there's more pathos in that movie, but like X-Men 1 and 2 are basically standalones from everything else in a lot of ways.
That's true. This is a particularly weak element of the movie for me, because you just sort of have to accept that he believes him.
Right. Yes.
You just have to accept it. There's not really... It doesn't make sense that he believes him. I mean, it's just stupid. It's very obvious that he's manipulating him, but... You
have to accept that not only Wolverine believes him, but then you have to try to understand why Stryker's doing it in the first place, which is, in my opinion, not great.
Well, yeah, because later he says he had to volunteer because we can't drug him.
Right.
But, like, there's
But not just that, but, like... The only reason Stryker wants Wolverine, and the only reason they want to make him indestructible, is to test if they can make the actual soldier they want to make indestructible.
Yeah, right. He's never even the end goal.
Right.
That's a weakness.
And so, like, it's just like, well, we made a really powerful weapon to defeat our really powerful weapon. Just
right. Yeah.
Because they don't know if, because they say they need to take Wolverine's DNA and put it into the thing they're making it at the end of the movie. But it seems like you could just get Wolverine's DNA. Seems like you probably already have it.
They probably already have it.
Because they said Sabretooth wouldn't survive it, so Wolverine would. But, like, you just had... If Sabretooth's fighting him, just tell Sabretooth to scratch him up. Yeah. Take the bones that you just broke with you.
Yeah. That would be perfect.
And then, guess what? Wolverine's not indestructible and won't ruin all your plans.
I think I mean, I'm probably giving them more credit than they necessarily deserve. But I could see that being a conscious choice to make him not the end goal, and have it be sort of like you build it up, he's the one, it's so important that he particularly is the one, and then like you get the rug pulled out from under you and it's not even him all along.
It's just...
But they don't really sell that.
Then, okay, so, because we're at this, he's in the tank and everything, which I guess is the X-Men 2 tank.
Yeah, they're really trying to recreate that, I think.
You know, they call him, like, prepare to meet Weapon X. And I'm like, screw you. Don't call this weapon, because that never happens again. It's just like, shut up. Because then they do the Grant Morrison thing. They're like, Weapon X is like Roman numeral for 10. It's like, ah!
Yeah. I don't hate that.
It's just the delivery of it all.
But I don't hate that.
Because then after they do that, they're like, it worked! I can't believe it worked!
Yeah.
Erase his memory. I'm like, so you have the power
to erase his
memory.
That's a whole...
If you have the power to erase his memory, then why are you also you're making this indestructible weapon? And then you're just going to erase his memory and send him out into the woods?
Yeah.
But then, couldn't you then just use him as a soldier? It seems like
they are. Maybe they're going to erase his memory.
I guess it's the 80s. Everybody's on cocaine anyways. You have to imagine that everybody there just did a line, and now they're like, all right, let's get adamantium in this guy.
Seriously.
Woo!
Yeah, the memory thing is... There are two things that I cannot stand about this movie. And one of them is the CGI, the claws in general.
And then it's the memory.
And the other thing is the memory at the end of the movie.
So because this is when we see his CGI claws for the and it's just like screw this movie and its stupid X mark in the wall Wolverine makes.
How do you not love that?
Because it's more bad CGI and it's more like, remember the X-Men?
Well, see, there's a thing I like about that, because in the cartoon he's always doing it at the same time. That always drove me nuts, because that does not work physically. You'd just be slashing your own claws. So I like that he does it.
He has to do it in pieces. Yeah. I just hate how it looks. And then it shows you how impractical it is, because he only kicks out the bottom of it.
I know.
An X is not a door. So, but I'm just like, I really thought I was going to start swearing to this movie. You know what? Last night I was watching this movie, and I hadn't taken any pain medicine because I got my wisdom teeth out. Oh, no. Because I'm now at the point where I think I can go longer without taking the stuff.
You shouldn't do that.
No, I'm good. I haven't taken any today, which is probably why I'm feeling so tired, too, because I'm like, ugh. But yeah, last night this movie was causing me more of a headache than the wisdom teeth removal. He meets the Hudsons. I never knew they were the Hudsons until this viewing, because
they were the Kents.
Yeah, no kidding. I confused somebody. I'm like, oh, he met Mom and Pa Kent today. And she's like, that doesn't make any sense. He ran all the way from Canada to Kansas. I'm like, oh, it's not really the Kents. Oh, no. But it's the Hudsons. Why call them the Hudsons? And
do they call them the Hudsons?
They're credited as the Hudsons in the movie. But why do that and call him Travis?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's them.
Okay.
The old people's supposed to be them.
Okay, yes, I'm with you.
But they just call him Travis.
Yeah.
So why? Right, she's credited as Heather Hudson.
She's credited as Heather Hudson.
Yeah. And he's credited as Travis Hudson. Just call him James. It doesn't even matter. I hate this interpretation of them anyways.
That's so weird.
Also... anyway.
That's very weird.
It's strange. It's strange decisions. It just doesn't make it... So, I don't know. Do you like the Hudsons in this? Do you like this elderly couple?
I
guess this is the comic relief section of the movie.
It's not comic relief. I think it's supposed to give you that moment of calm.
Which
makes sense structurally.
I like Travis's. I don't know.
I'm going to call them old man and old lady.
Yes. All right.
Because I have no attachment.
Old man Hudson.
Old man Hudson.
I like his response is finding a naked Hugh Jackman, where he's like, "You're not on the drugs or anything." He's like, "No." He's like, "Just had a bad night." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Like, I like that understanding that, like, some people end up in these situations and they've just had a really bad... Like, there's something, like, very understated about that line.
Yeah,
it's still a bit like, maybe don't let him into your house right away. Maybe call the cops.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, too, that they have a son about his age, that they would be a little more sympathetic to him.
Yeah. Son his age.
And there's nothing... There's nothing...
that son is just going to come home one day. He gets no phone call.
Well, they keep talking about him in the past tense.
Yeah, you think he's
dead?
I
got the impression.
Well, because they gave him his coat. Hey, we learned the origins of Wolverine's jacket. But here's the problem. At the end of the movie, he leaves the island to go off into the sunset. His jacket's not on.
Maybe it's in the plane that Gambit had.
Gambit leaves without him.
Gambit somehow
leaves him, throws him. He's like, "Oh, hey!
Between now,
take your jacket."
And later, he gives him the jacket.
No.
Anyway, I think that the old man is a strong point because of how he interacts with him there, and when he's talking about him fixing to do a bad thing. I think that's all really well delivered. I like that. Like how Wolverine's like, I don't have a choice.
Right.
He's like, everybody has a choice. You're an idiot.
Bit about like, I bet you're a bit too old to remember that motorcycle.
Yeah.
I
like that.
Yeah, that's a bit of that like, I'm so old.
Yeah.
But they don't really play around with too much. The CGI gets real bad from now until, I mean, it's been bad, but because you said the CGI.
Nightmares about that bathroom scene.
The bathroom scene with his claws is terrible, and he's like poking it.
Yes.
And they're like sparking off of each other. And also they're mirroring it.
Yes.
It's just floating metal claws. But also, like, the whole hills of this scene from this cabin, all these, like, green hills and background looks so CGI. Look, everything looks green screened.
Anytime that he's outside, it looks like...
oh my
there's
gosh.
the scene when he's on the motorcycle, and it just looks so much like he's just, like... one of those guys in like the 50s in front of the actual movie screen.
Right, yeah, the screen's moving behind him.
Oh, I'm so intensely on my motorcycle.
Oh my gosh. I guess I'll give credit where credit's due. I didn't hate the Wolverine on a motorcycle fight with the two Humvees and the helicopter.
That was good.
I thought
that was a solid scene.
There's a lot of bad camera choices, again, in these, especially the scene where he catapults himself to the helicopter. There's a weird...
But come on.
Like, the concept is, that cheesy excitement and everything that I like.
Yeah.
But there's weird camera editing during that, where it's like, especially there's a close-up of Wolverine flying up, but that's all CGI and camera zooming. I'm just like, Gah!
Yeah.
But... So to that point,
they should have stayed distant for that.
Right.
The shot from the side is good.
This is Wolverine's like first fight with his new metal claws and everything. So like, there's stuff about it that like, then I do like, and my attention was a little bit more piqued during it.
It is interesting. He does several things with his new metal claws that he never would have done
with his bone claws.
Yeah. And it just happens a little too naturally.
Yeah, I don't...
Like when he's turning the bike and he puts the metal claws down there, there's never like I wonder if this will work.
Yeah.
It's like he just instinctively does that, and if he had done that with his bone claws, he would no longer have bone claws.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they tell him they're going to make him indestructible. I'd probably be like, yeah, but not indestructible.
Right, and like you don't just instinctively do those things.
That, I should have said that was also our meeting of Dr. Cornelius and what's her name? Carol Frost. They're part of the Weapon X storyline.
Oh, I liked her. She stands out to me.
Yeah.
I think it's just her face. I think she's just got an interesting face.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about that reminds me, when he first appears in the barn, naked, he's very distinctly doing the Terminator stance.
That's true.
And then
that
whole
true.
sequence ends up having the same feel as the crazy action that happens in Terminator movies in general, where it is just that like, ha, this is so insane, and you just enjoy it kind of thing.
The views on Previously on X-Men are those of the host.
I'm not saying it's as good as Terminator. I'm just saying it's reminiscent. And it's another one of those things that makes me wonder if they're purposely doing these things, or if they're just being impacted by images that are thrown at them and they don't even know what they're doing.
If you want to make a cheesy 80s style, low budget action, like canon films kind of thing, like the first Terminator, like all those movies, like he's out for revenge and they don't see him coming. I'm coming for you.
Right,
that kind of stuff. Then do that. Yeah. Because it's very
piecemeal.
This movie is $150 million of that. So, like, it gets too big to be charming.
Yeah.
And so, like, if they had done that, they're like, we're giving you $80 million, practical effects, the same bad storyline. There's ways to do that. That would have been suited
in some ways to a Wolverine movie.
Yeah, there's ways to do that like Winter Soldier had done. Logan is much more low budget, but like there's ways to do that story. And yes, Crib from the Terminator, Crib for all these things. It's like they do it, but they don't know they're doing it. Almost, yeah, exactly. They're not self-aware about it.
Exactly, and they don't do it consistently. I mean, consistency is the name of the game for this whole thing. Because
then they do that dumb walking away from the exploding helicopter.
Right? I mean that could have just been from another movie.
Yeah.
Like there's so many of those things that are just very clear that this is a thing, but it's not consistent.
I guess this is at a point where, before, X-Men 3 was the biggest game in town when it came out in terms of like superhero movies, that many characters, that big of a budget. But then, in the 3 years between X-Men 3 and this, things have gotten bigger. I mean, you've had Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. You've had Iron Man is out. Movies have gotten bigger and have more personality in their action and in their style and everything. And so Wolverine's operating like on maybe a prior level where it doesn't realize it's the only game in town. It's not the only game in town anymore. Right. And so, like, if it had really... like, Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier leans into this, like, 70s paranoia action film. And, like, that's the thing that, like, superhero movies do now. They take from other genres and put that in. And I feel like this one should have known that, but they didn't.
Yeah, they're doing it, but not intentionally. Later on, there's a scene where he walks off into the sunset, and that's just, like, another moment of very clear what you're doing.
And this is also where Stryker's like... We'll have an adamantium bullet. It's the only thing that can stop him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it? Because couldn't you just drown him?
Yeah.
This is the thing about Wolverine.
They're not very
when you go nuts with his regeneration thing, it's just like, well, there are ways to stop him, but you can't because he's an ongoing character. But like, and maybe it's not Danny Huston's dumb face's fault. Stryker, to me, at least in the second movie, is a smart character. And he does not seem smart at all in this movie. He makes many dumb choices. Like turning Wolverine into this, trusting Sabretooth.
He seems more like a tool in this than anything else.
He does everything
He's not a mastermind.
In broad daylight, or his covert team is the biggest, loudest covert team I've ever seen. And then he kills a general, and it's just like, this man is not smart.
Yeah.
And so Stryker in X-Men 2, you think is dangerous because he seems smart and he's manipulating the system. This guy, he's just failing upwards, but then not. It drives me crazy because, anyway, at this point in the movie, when Wolverine's off to go, like, meet other Team X people I'm exhausted at this point in the movie. I'm just like, I didn't pause to see how much it is, but I'm just like, I'm tired. And... For different reasons than like X-Men 3. At least X-Men 3 just moves so fast you can't, from scene to scene to scene. It doesn't give you long enough to get too mad. You can't be like, well, that was dumb. Oh, wait, new scene.
Yeah.
Because this is like, oh my gosh. Why is Wraith? Why of all the characters in Wolverine's history, why is Will.I.Am's Wraith the guy?
Well, they don't really do... Like, he is, but then he just dies.
Right.
So, like, there's not a lot invested in him.
There's so many scenes of Wolverine and him just like, hey, buddy! They become, like, best friends. They're joking. He's like, you're an a-hole. He's like, oh, get in there.
I like those moments.
But I just don't know why...
Yeah.
why Wraith? This is me as like a comic book reader, not watching this movie, because in the movie they can do whatever they want. But like as this, I'm like, why were they reading the comics or whatever? And they're like, we'll make Wraith the guy. Was it because they cast Will.i.am? And they're like, we got to give him more scenes. Possible, but I don't know.
I don't know if there's like a team like this and he's normally a part of the team or he's not normally a part of the team, but I think it makes sense for
in the movie. Yeah, sure.
I think it makes sense for
Wraith seemed less
Dominic Monaghan's character to be the one who dies early. I think it makes sense for Zero to be the guy who's still in the system and still just following it. Makes sense for Sabretooth to do what he's doing. So I think it makes the most sense for him out of the group that we have to be kind of like a more stable, he's made a life for himself and he's still sort of connected.
I guess for me, coming from all the things that I've, read and liked and everything, and maybe not having read the things I should have if it applies to this movie, I guess it just, like, for me, it would have made more sense like Maverick, who is Zero, to be the character that you make. But
not the way they have Zero in this movie.
No, you can't do it in the way they do it. But, like, if I was writing the script, I would have switched the roles of Wraith and Maverick. The boxing gloves, the claws through the boxing gloves, so stupid. It looks so dumb.
I feel like I've seen that before.
And other things, probably. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I look at him like, that's dumb. Yeah. That looks dumb.
I just like that.
He's wearing this big red glove.
It's another moment of what I like about this movie, where you get to see him with peers.
Yeah, okay. Blob, I guess.
I think if you're going to do an origin with Wolverine, if you're not going to do a really intense, like, real Weapon X kind of movie, this is a good way to go because you get to see him before he gets to be this mythos guy.
Sure. Later, Sabretooth is like, I killed Freddy. I'm like, I don't think Sabretooth could kill the Blob.
Yeah.
Maybe this Blob is weird.
Yeah, he's not the same.
In the previous scenes, when he's part of the team, he has super strength. He seems strong enough to punch a tank and it cause it to explode. And in this one, does he still have that super strength? Because he's punching Wolverine around.
Well, I think he's really out of practice.
Yeah.
And what you do see is that the only reason that Wolverine ultimately beats him is because he hits his head against Wolverine.
And he's got the claws have hurt.
So he sort of beats himself a little bit.
There's been some fun Wolverine dealing with the Blob situation in the comics before.
Yeah.
That really left Wolverine in pain.
Yeah.
But also the Blob. So I've enjoyed those. But yeah, I don't know. Here's the other reason you can reconcile it. Blob only ever shows up in a quick cameo in X-Men Apocalypse, which also takes place during the 80s.
There you go.
So it slowly starts to...
It all makes sense.
Boy, teachers seem to hate Scott.
Right?
People in school just hate Scott.
I know.
Because
he's not wearing sunglasses. He's wearing red glasses.
Here's the thing.
That's a thing that kids... I don't know when it started, but kids have been wearing those kinds of things for a long time when they're colorblind.
What's confusing about this is he's wearing the glasses. So he knows he has these powers, and so he's been giving these ruby quartz things.
Yeah, who gave him the ruby quartz glasses?
Right.
When he's just meeting Xavier.
Right, so...
Maybe it was Sinister.
Yeah, so let's say he's got his ruby quartz glasses, so obviously they must be prescription glasses.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's bizarre. Are we supposed to believe that he used his powers for the first time in this movie?
That can't be.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because why would he have the glasses?
I don't know. So... But then he's also complaining he has a headache.
Yeah, which makes it seem like
his powers
are emerging.
Yeah, it's inconsistent. But like this, and then I remember in X-Men Apocalypse, the same like scene situation with like a teacher being like, Scott, what's the deal? Why do you suck?
They're so mean to him.
It's just like...
Well, he's also a foster kid, so they might just be like making him be kind of like a...
It's so weird because like... The Cyclops we always see in these flashbacks is always so like disliked and also a little bit snotty compared to like the teacher's pet.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah, it's a weird... I sort of wondered in this movie until the very, very end if Scott already knew Xavier because he just goes along with all of the prompts.
I know.
And I thought maybe I think it could be interesting if he had...
Yeah.
interacted with him already.
Nope.
But no.
Yeah.
He's just for the very first time.
Also, we got his fire optic blast.
I wrote that down. The laser eyes. It drives me nuts. He's standing precariously on the edge of a thing. Cyclops can launch him into the distance. It's force. It's not lasers. And then his claws are all like...
Oh, you're thinking of the end of the movie.
It's Deadpool,
no, we could talk about that. But I think, like Kayla... they only gave Cyclops the fire powers for something to happen at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the fire thing. And I thought, like, Bryan Singer, monster that he is, would fix that when he did Apocalypse. But then when we meet Cyclops in that, he blasts a tree, and the tree's on fire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you knew! Mm-hmm. You knew!
Yeah.
He was, at that point, he didn't care who we heard anymore.
Better.
He was, he's like, well, blah! So yeah, that really made me angry. Because not only is it inconsistent with the comics, it's inconsistent with the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was so dumb. Wolverine shows Wraith his claws. He's like, remember what we were looking for in Africa? Schnit. And Wraith is like, that's cool. I'm like, no, it's not. That looks stupid with that CGI. And why is that your reaction?
Yeah.
You can teleport.
Yeah.
Is it cool? Is it that cool?
Like, here's a question that's just related to Wolverine in general with the bone claws. Why is it bone claws? Why isn't it just claws like animals have? Like, why isn't it just claws? Retractable claws are a thing that exist in the world. So why isn't it just that instead of, like, bone?
Mutations happen, so maybe he's the first mutant that this has ever happened with, and so future mutations would be like, you know what, let's make this stuff out of, like, stronger animal stuff.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, okay, fine. But I just don't know why, when you are conceptualizing claws, you don't then go to claws. You're just like, it's like a femur that comes out of his knuckles.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why is that a thing?
I don't know.
Should just be claws.
Yeah, I think it's kind of,
Fine. Carry on.
Hey, we're Taylor Kitsch.
Yes, who you hate and I like.
I believe he is the STD of also-ran actors. So
I think he does a pretty good job.
Look, I
was dreading any portrayal of Gambit. I could not fathom someone doing a good Gambit. Yeah. And I thought he did a fine job.
I hated him less this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like Taylor Kitsch. He's another actor that, like, every time I see him, I'm like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, I don't generally like him. I was surprised by being as okay with his performance.
I don't know how he keeps getting roles. At one point, it seemed like Hollywood was trying to make him a thing.
Yeah.
And then they finally realized people do not like this man's face and do not like him. Because he was in Battleship, he was in John Carter.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Taylor Kitsch and Lynn Collins were both in John Carter of Mars.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
It's bad.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I watched the whole thing. It felt like a Wonderful World of Disney movie. Just with a budget.
Yeah. But yeah, I like Taylor Kitsch's Gambit. I think he does a pretty good job. He's probably helped by the fact that he doesn't do a lot.
Yeah, that's
like
the thing.
A lot of it is him just sort of sitting.
He doesn't have
and
to
looking
do
mysterious.
Too many Gambit things.
Yeah.
His power is never explosive enough for my taste.
Yeah, well, I think it's mostly because they dampen down the color. I think a lot of what his power does seems more kinetic, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But and less visual.
I just don't buy that, like, the cards he throws in this movie could actually affect a Sentinel.
Well, he can control how much he puts in them.
Yeah. They really think he has, like, card telekinesis in this movie.
Yeah,
because he does, like, the spinning thing, and then the car's like...
Yeah, like, if you do that... The cards just fly around. Yeah. Like, he doesn't control the cards any more than, like...
In comics...
You could with physical motion.
On the page, we don't really question it, because it just looks cool. But in a movie, when you're expecting some sorts of physics, it's just like, oh, I don't know.
Well, like, because I like the idea of him being skilled at handling cards, because it seems like the kind of thing that he would develop as a person. And, like, he might have some... I always get the impression that he has some enhanced... movement to
it's
him.
So weird because I didn't look for, like, confirmation of this, but, like, you know, following the X-Men movies as they were coming out and everything, I remember the talk being they didn't want Gambit in the X-Men movies because they thought they had Wolverine and they didn't want another, like, mysterious, gritty character.
Yeah, you don't want too many mysterious, gritty characters.
And so
I'm being sarcastic because that would have been great.
So it seemed like that's why they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But then his first appearance is in a Wolverine solo movie.
Yeah.
And so I just don't get the way people think.
Yeah, the decision-making process is weird. And I like that he's in it because one of my favorite things in the X-Men is Gambit and Wolverine together. I think that they play well together. So I liked having him in it. Yeah, they have rapport.
Yeah.
I always like anything where people aren't impressed with Wolverine. And that's the thing that Gambit always has for me. That he's just like... Yeah, I'm cool, you're cool, we're all cool.
But here's the issue. Okay, so I said there were two jokes I like. I like the joke where Blob is punching Wolverine and Wolverine punches him, and Blob's just like, hey, guess what? And then he punches him. That's funny to me in a stupid way. But then also, there's the bit where Wolverine sees Victor, because he went to go get Gambit, now he sees Victor, And as he's talking to Victor, Gambit comes out. It's like, I've been in that place and I'm not going. And Wolverine just elbows him in the face and knocks him out. And that's very funny.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious.
Well, it's because Taylor Kitsch is so devoted to that moment.
Yes.
Like, this is going to be a thing, and he's just wiped out.
But I think, as funny as that is, I think it hurts Gambit as a character. Because like you say, you like a Gambit who stands up to Wolverine, and that just like neuters him completely in one hit. I feel like after this like initial New Orleans, maybe after like this first introduction in the club, like everything outside of the club, Gambit is less impressive.
Yeah. Is that moment before or after he runs in from the outside and like does the pull into the ground and knocks everybody out and kind of like scares Sabretooth?
No, that's when he comes back because he's on the roof. For some reason, he woke up from being knocked out, gets up on the roof, runs along the roof, and then lands and knocks everything out. And Victor gets away.
I think that helps. Get him back on his feet, because like you have the moment where like he's not expecting it, he gets knocked out. That makes sense. Wolverine is stronger than him physically, but then he does like sort of like the finesse that he has and comes in and shows the magnitude of his power, which you haven't really seen yet.
It's just a weird time.
I think that Sabretooth leaves because of Gambit. Like there's a way you can see it that it's like there's two of them against one. Whatever, but I think it's also because he knows something about Gambit. Because Gambit was on the island.
Right, yeah.
He knows that Gambit can take him.
Right, maybe, yeah.
I got that.
It seemed like a weird time in the movie, pacing-wise, to introduce a new big character.
That's true.
Like a Gambit, who now becomes like integral to the plot.
Yeah.
And like, but it also seems like we got to put Gambit in something to show.
Yeah.
But now they've also, going forward, they never are able to introduce Gambit again because they've time locked him in the 80s.
That's true. But he can
but
come
also,
back as older.
What's his name? Slowed everything down too. Channing Tatum. Because he wanted a Gambit movie.
Don't you talk to me about Channing Tatum. Gosh, when they said that Channing freaking Tatum was going to be Gambit. I thought my head was going to explode.
Maybe we should do an episode on the almost Gambit movie we got, because it actually started to win me over at one point.
I would have watched a Gambit movie. I love Gambit. That was the moment when I was like, no Gambit movie.
Yeah.
There will never be a Gambit movie if this is what we've got at the table. I will never watch Gambit again.
I hate Sabretooth's dog run.
I hate Sabretooth's dog run.
He doesn't...
I guess I kind of like that they tried it, but they do it so often, and it's so bad.
It looks so stupid.
Because you know what? Human bodies can't run like that.
I hate Gambit using because Wolverine cuts his staff in half.
Where he's
climbing up.
He's like a weird like animal or something.
Yeah, and he's so fast.
It's so weird.
It's so CGI'd fast, and also Wolverine doing the fire escape claw thing. Yeah. It's just like that's something you expect to see in a children's cartoon that's dumber than the '90s animated show. You know, that doesn't realize, because like the '90s animated show would not even do this.
Yeah.
This claw. It's just Wolverine swinging his arms, cutting this fire escape, and Gambit like, oh no!
Yeah. That's all bad. It's all real bad.
All right.
I hate the part where Gambit is on the one side of the alley and he like does a flip sideways over to the other side. Pole,
yeah.
It's another one of those things that like you would conceptualize and
be
like,
comic,
and then he does that
cool.
thing. But then you see just like a fully stretched out man's body going upside down.
It's like in
and it's just comical.
X-Men 3, like how the fastball special never looks good in real life, where in the comic you never see like the initial launch.
Yeah.
So like once you see just the man like, ha-ha! Starfishing across an alley.
Here I go! Yeah, it's not good.
Hey, we see Jason.
The
boy. Jason the boy, mastermind.
Yeah.
He's frozen.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. I think that he used that girl mutant who's like down there and she's like all in ice and stuff. Do you think he used her to freeze him?
Oh. I don't know. I don't know who that girl is. I saw somebody suggest it was Dust and you have to freeze her to keep her powers in place. Maybe. At one point, the guy's like, this is your work. He's like, yep, Weapon 11. All their strengths and other weaknesses. And I'm just like, what weaknesses? You took his healing ability.
The weaknesses that they have.
Wolverine's weakness... I
think maybe he means the weaknesses involved in being human.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, like they have willpower and such.
And he kills the general. How do you get away with that?
I know.
At the end of the movie, during the end credits, they're like, we have to bring you in for questioning. I'm sure he's able to just say, like, a mutant did it. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but he shows a little bit of being crazy in those moments, which I don't think you often get with Stryker. I think usually with Stryker, he's just like the power of his conviction or whatever. But yeah, he shows a little bit of being nuts.
Oh, and he calls it the pool. He calls the power. He's like
dead pool.
He's like, it's the pool of all their powers, the dead pool.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Listen.
You don't always have to explain the names. It just sounds cool.
I had forgot how bad the Deadpool stuff was in this movie.
Yeah.
Because, this is me, not you.
Right.
I was a big fan of Deadpool, especially his the original Joe Kelly run and his original solo series and everything. Like, I bought all those as a teenager, and I loved him, and I loved the character and everything. And I was excited for a Deadpool movie, and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and him being in this.
Yeah.
I had forgotten just how much it hurt me. And, like, it's funny because even though there are 2 Deadpool movies after this that are much better, it's still, like, annoying and painful just because of, like, how much they don't understand the appeal.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the character who's famous for how much he talks, so his mouth shut. The character who doesn't have optic blast, we give it, my head.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where you wonder why they decided it was going to be Deadpool. Like, why does it have to be Deadpool? It could be anybody. Like, why did it even have to be someone we'd seen before? It could have just been some rando that they've been cramming things into. Just make it Weapon 11.
They didn't
Doesn't
care.
even need a name.
They didn't care.
It keeps going. You get so many more X-Men movies.
Yes.
Despite bad ones. So early on.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a testament to how strong, even not just X-Men, but this franchise is.
Mm-hmm. And Wolverine, because he gets two other movies.
It's interesting to me that it keeps going so long.
Also, we get Emma Frost. But actually, it's not Emma Frost. It was when they originally wrote it.
Yeah.
But she's only credited as Emma. And Bryan Singer, monster that he is, suggested that it's just a girl named Emma with the diamond powers.
The diamond powers?
Because she shows no psychic powers.
Yeah.
She shows no telepathy. It's a girl named Emma who has diamond powers.
It's quite a coincidence.
That is also one of the biggest things that you have to ignore if you want this to fit in the continuity, because of Emma Frost being in the other one. And I mean, she doesn't show telepathy, so there's that. They don't call her Emma Frost. There's that. She's connected to a character she has no connections with. There's that. Just assume she's not Emma Frost.
That's weird. Her better than the later Emma Frost.
But, hey! Sorry, I got so loud. I didn't realize it until they were, like, just hanging out and, like, working together. It's Emma and Cyclops.
Oh, yeah.
Teamed up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not Emma Frost, but if it is...
Cool.
There's something cool about that, to me, I think. That they're, like, teamed up. I wanted them to, like, run off and fall in love.
Yeah.
So you don't like the Emma Frost. We talked about that already. Well, it's better, as again, like I said in the Cyclops episode, it's more interesting than we're fated to be lovers because you were the only girl and I was the leader.
Yeah.
At this point in the movie, it's fairly obvious it's not a Wolverine story.
Yeah.
It's just an X-Men universe story that takes place in Wolverine's past.
Yeah.
It's just because it's not telling us. Wolverine's story goes nowhere. There's no story of this Wolverine. Sometimes they try to bring in with Victor with the whole, like, come on, you are an animal, I know it. But, like, outside of when he's with Victor, that's never a thing. He's always so controlled with everything else.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting challenge to make a Wolverine origin story in a world where it ends up with him having his memory wiped, because it doesn't really matter.
Right. That's what the whole, like, they have to put a story in and then have him lose his memory.
Yeah, and then, like, he's just starting from scratch then.
Right.
For the rest of the movies. So then, like, it's hard. I think what I'm saying is it's hard to make an origin that has any meaning that ends in it not having any meaning.
Maybe there's something, if you want to do it this way, to show Wolverine struggling a lot better with his animalistic side. And maybe he does find zen and peace. And so then it's sad when he loses memory and he has to now start at zero, but he's lost all the people who've helped him along the way to get there. Because then it's like, oh, he was there. Yeah. He found happiness and zen, and now it's all been taken away. But at this, like, at the end of the movie, when he loses his memory, his character arc, there is no character arc, really.
That's true.
It's just him dealing with Sabretooth and also fighting Stryker.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't really change much.
Like, the first X-Men 1 and 2 have a much better character arc for the guy, because it is him dealing with his animalistic and loner nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably that the actual arc happened before the movie started, sort of.
Yeah, the arc is during the war.
Yeah, it's during the war.
The war is...
It ends with him...
leaving the team.
With,
Kayla. Yeah.
So what we're seeing is the aftermath of the arc.
Yeah.
Which is a weird choice, that's true.
It's interesting because he is in it, but Victor is also not really in this movie. I remember him being a much bigger presence than he is.
Well, he disappears for a large portion
Yeah,
of it.
he just disappears. And, like, considering his relationship with Wolverine is supposed to basically be the crux of this film, he's really not in it as much as you would think he would need to be.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And when he comes back, it's also not very clear. It's frustrating because when he comes back with Stryker on the island, when Sabretooth comes back, you think that he's made some deal with Stryker that involves him and his relationship with Wolverine, but what it turns out is that he just wants the adamantium, I guess?
Yeah. He can take anything Wolverine can.
That's a more shallow thing than I would have liked for how much they've put into their relationship.
It's frustrating, yeah. He's not doing it right to compete with Wolverine.
Yeah, he's just like,
he says, like, I can take anything he can.
Yeah, so there's that. There's at least something.
But that's why he's been working with him the whole time.
Yeah, but it should, for how much character development and relationship development they've put into this movie.
At least in the credits, the opening credits.
There's no real payoff for it. And then the memory thing.
Yeah, so Wolverine finds out Kayla's alive and it was a whole lie. And that flashback just put the hand on him, like, oh, we tricked him. But, so Wolverine leaves, fully clothed, in his jacket and everything. And then Kayla screams and he comes back, and now he's just in his wife beater. So at some point, Wolverine was just like, threw off his jacket. It's like, I gotta get into my battle mode. Yep. That's his wife beater. And he's pre-stanced. He's pre-crouched and stance. And then the dog run again, and they go out the window. So they go out the window. They crash out this window and land on the ground. Wolverine has the upper hand. He's got adamantium claws. Sabretooth's on the ground. He's punched him a few times. When I saw this for the first time, and this is where you make fun of me for how I watch movies, I guess, this is a moment where you have the opportunity to reconcile the two Sabretooths. Because if Wolverine stuck his claws through Sabretooth's brain in this scene, you could then just say, after that, Sabretooth became much more animalistic and gave into that, and now he turned into whatever Tylemane is.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't do that narratively, because the story that this movie's trying to tell with Wolverine is that he's not Sabretooth, and he's not going to give into his animal nature.
Well, another easy way to do it would be that he submits to some sort of experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or say, you're getting worse or something.
Yeah. There are ways. They just didn't try very hard.
My teeth are starting to hurt. But yeah, I always thought, like, you could just show... I mean, I guess maybe it shows how little I understand about character development. But yeah, if Wolverine's claws put that third claw through his head... Yeah. Sabretooth's like, oh, I'm an animal now!
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that does ruin their arc, though.
Yes, it does.
They do that thing that it just drives me crazy in movies. When the bad guy, like the good guy is about to kill the bad guy, and the bad guy's like, do it. Do it!
Yeah.
Why? Why do they always do that? Is that a thing that would ever happen in real life? I don't think that it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like he knows that he won't do it. He wants him to do it.
Yeah.
Why? Okay. Because then you're dead. Like, you've won against him, I guess. Like, you've turned him into a monster, but then you're dead.
If we take what, like, we know from, like, comics and other pieces of the X-Men thing, I think there is a part of Sabretooth who doesn't care if he gets killed as long as he's proved right about Wolverine. Like, if Wolverine killed... I know.
That's a weird thing to...
But I think it... Because Sabretooth's a sadist. Like, he just lives... Every moment is just the moment he lives. Because, like, he has no goals or future. He just likes killing people and all of this. And this Sabretooth doesn't seem to have, like, future goals outside of getting the adamantium.
Yeah.
So, like, at that point, all he really has now is the pride that he's right over Wolverine.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're not living for tomorrow, then what else does Sabretooth have? Like, go ahead, kill me. I'll be dead. I know life is miserable and sucks, and I'm at the top of the food chain, but if you kill me, good. I'm out of here, and I was right.
Yeah, I guess I just have a really hard time connecting to that kind of mindset.
Well, I think that's why Sabretooth is a supervillain and you're Hilary, the editor.
Yes.
And not out there, I don't know.
I just never like it.
Chasing your twin,
like
your twin Allison, be like, come on, Allison, kill me.
It would be perfect.
Yeah.
No, but it's
I don't want to. Do it.
It's one of those kinds of, it's like a trope that I just don't like in movies.
Right. From, like, this villain stance, like, if you do that, you know you've pushed them. And now, so, like, in Sabretooth's mind, do it, Wolverine. I'll be dead, sure, but I'll be right. And now you're me. And so do I really? I live on that legacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are weirdly in tune with this.
Look, it's now we really get into like X-Men movie traditional territory because we find all the X-Men. Not all the X-Men, all the characters, all the mutants who have been captured by Stryker.
Yeah. And
this is something that you definitely like. For us, watching the X-Men movies, like cameo.
Yeah.
It's like we just eat those up. But at this point, it's also just like, boy, this is just X-Men 4 or whatever. It's just a gallery of mutants, whom I think that's Banshee with the mask over his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's Riptide, who's like shaking around, who's a marauder who can like spin around like a tornado. I think that's supposed to be Quicksilver.
I thought that was Quicksilver.
He looks fast. And then also maybe Toad because they show the tongue.
Toad, yes.
But it doesn't really look... He looks gray and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who the girl is who's frozen.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be.
So either they froze her because of her powers or she has ice powers and she just needs somebody.
There were twins of some kind in there. There was like twins.
Yeah, I saw twins at one point.
Like
yeah.
that.
And then there's Cyclops and Emma. It's funny because once he starts freeing the mutant, Stryker's like, turn on Weapon 11 and like the bonding process isn't complete. I'm like, the same as the script.
Yeah, right. Well, like, I hated that too because, like, you can't say the bonding process isn't complete and then clearly the bonding process is complete.
And what's the bonding process? Is it the adamantium? Because it looks ready.
Yeah, because it was completely ready when Wolverine was still in the tank.
It took minutes.
He's not even in the tank.
It took a minute to do the... Yeah.
While we're talking about that...
Uh-huh.
You can't handle swords appropriately when they are attached to your knuckles. There's no way. I'm not a fencer. I don't know anything. But I'm watching him and I'm like, that's not, you can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
You cannot.
People can't see it. I'm swinging my arms around trying to see. I guess maybe it's the force. It doesn't, you don't have the finesse.
You have to be able to use like, you have to be able to like, hold it in a certain way and like use your wrist and like
how far do you that's let's just go all the way up his arms.
I don't think he bent his arms when they were retracted, so it's possible that he just has to walk like a zombie all the time. No.
Poor Weapon 11. They showed his mouth shut. It's just
it's
crazy.
Within the movie that kind of works because it's got kind of like a poetic thing where like he's a smart mouth at the beginning, the guy doesn't like that he's a smart mouth, so he sews his mouth shut. There's not a point to showing his mouth shut. It doesn't help in any way. It's a vindictive thing for Stryker to have done. So I think this Deadpool that we're seeing is a different actor playing in all the fight scenes. And then it's just like the face shots. I think they must
Ryan
have
Reynolds
Ryan
at different
Reynolds for
reshoots.
The
yeah. And that's so. At one point, Kayla's like, it was real for me too, and everything, and crying and pleading, and still the sister thing, and it's just like prequel romances are stupid.
Yes.
They don't
because they don't go anywhere.
Right. It was the same thing recently with the Solo movie, where Han has this like relationship that like it doesn't matter how much charisma the actors have or how much the romance can kind of stick with you. We just know there's no real way to be 100% committed into these things. So like,
well, you got to look at it in those kinds of situations as character development more than plot.
Yes, they're character development
because all it is. I mean, those kinds of relationships change the person.
Right.
So, like, in that kind of thing, like, it matters if he believes that he was manipulated the entire time or if he believes that she actually loved him. That matters for who he thinks he is.
I guess it works for me if your prequel comes out soon enough that you can then make non-prequel movies and then bring that character back.
Sure.
And then, put some more foundation in there. But when it's just a prequel where either the character dies or we know the character is never seen again, it's very hard to...
Yeah.
Why does Wolverine climb the tower? Why is that his first strategy?
I'm going to get up there. High ground? That's a thing.
But it takes him forever to get up there.
I don't remember him climbing. All I can remember...
No, he uses his claws to climb up the big nuclear smokestack. And then he's just up there.
It's your knuckles.
Yeah. And at one point, when he's up there, he's like, let's see you do it up here then. And then the guy just teleports. I'm like, what was your end game? Because, sure, maybe he can't climb up there. You can.
Now you're up there and
he's down there killing everybody?
Yeah, I guess
I don't understand what your plan is.
Maybe he was just being a coward. I'm out of here.
Okay, so this is why they fight the Deadpool guy. Who's teleporting, and they fight back to back, so I guess they're friends again, kind of. And
nobody kills him but him.
Nobody kills him but him. And they get hit by his optic blast, because they gave him Cyclops' optic blast. I like the Cyclops moment that with him and Emma, where she's like, okay, shoot. Like, she aims him, and he blasts it. She's like, did I get him? She's like, yeah. I'm like, those two are in love. So.
Wow, I did not know you were a shipper for those guys.
At this young stage. And she doesn't seem like she can damage him too much at this stage.
Sure, she's innocent. She's blonde.
I mean, I guess at this point, 17, you could still really ruin somebody.
Yeah.
So,
it's not hard to ruin people.
No, I just like that she's, like, impressed by his optic blast. Because, like, nobody ever says anything nice to Cyclops.
That's true.
So, that's nice.
He got a little boost.
He's using his optic blast and knocks Sabretooth down, but Wolverine blocks it.
He blocks it with
his claws. Because he has a really good footing on this super
very
high,
solid footing.
Narrow towering, and that makes his claws hot.
They give the blasts a sound that sounds like force. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like
I won't defend the force.
It sounds like woo, 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 woo. It's like this is pushing.
Yeah, because his claws get hot, and then he's able to cut the guy's head off who received adamantium. So saying hot adamantium is the only thing that can cut cold adamantium.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So I think the only reason they gave Cyclops' powers heat in this one is so they could do that. I have to imagine they wrote the end first and like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then they're like, it's heat.
But that's just a problem all the time with Cyclops, though. Like, they're constantly going back and forth with it being...
In the movies, yes. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's a real pain.
Okay.
Can we talk about the memory?
Yeah, the memory thing. It's kind of a werewolf thing, isn't it? Because Wolverine's, like, bestial and wolf-like and all this, and they have basically their equivalent of a silver bullet is the only thing that can take him down.
That's true. That's gotta be a thing. That reminds me of something I was going to say at the very, 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 very beginning.
Okay.
I forgot.
Okay.
Why does Sabretooth leave the head of a Wolverine before he's Wolverine?
Is that a Wolverine and not a bear?
No, that's a Wolverine. It's the head of a Wolverine.
Maybe she called him up and he's like, yeah, I told him this dumb story about a moon and a Wolverine.
He might really latch on to it,
he's like, well, guess what? Papa's got a Wolverine head for sitting here.
Anyway, that's way back.
Yeah.
Back to the end.
Uh-huh.
So he defeats...
Deadpool.
Right.
Him and Kayla are friends. She's bleeding. They're going to go off to...
Kayla's gonna die.
Yeah, but they're going to go find help.
And what's his name? Stryker shoots him in the head. He shoots him, and then eventually he shoots him in the head.
Yeah, finally gets him.
His intention with shooting him in the head...
Is to
erase...
His memory. Because he says that. That's
I
the problem.
No problem with him shooting him in the head and that causing memory loss. That's a completely plausible thing. You cannot decide that you are going, yes.
I wrote the exact same thing. Memory gun. Don't say it's going to happen.
That solves the problem.
Yeah.
Just don't say it.
Yeah.
Because you cannot decide what is going to happen when you cause brain damage. It
Right.
does all kinds of different things. Maybe he wakes up and he's a sociopath.
Because
you cannot
Carol
decide.
Frost says that won't stop him.
Yeah.
But she says, but he does say, but it will erase his memory.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then,
it might.
Yeah.
It could.
It'll be fun when we watch Logan.
You can't assume it's going to.
Yeah. It'll be fun when we watch Logan and we see what an adamantium bullet also does to adamantium.
Oh, it just makes me crazy.
But yeah, it's you're right. Just don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it happens, we as the audience will all go, oh!
I bet that'll erase his memory.
Not only are you a stupid movie, but you assume the audience was dumber.
Yeah.
So that you had to explain it. Because, like, you could have. Yeah.
That's not how brains work. You cannot assume that, especially with a bullet.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even, like, major brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like his head was crushed or something.
Right.
I mean, a bullet is a very precise thing.
Yes.
It could be that it just blinds him.
Nope.
It could be that it does nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, like, in Logan, an adamantium bullet maybe could destroy an adamantium skull.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't know.
Yeah. Could be anything.
Anyway.
He's never shot someone. That's another thing. Mm-hmm. They have these adamantium bullets, and they're like, this is the only thing that can stop someone with adamantium bonded to their skeleton. Wolverine is the very first person that this has ever happened to. How do they have any idea what's going to happen?
The bullet thing. In the video game, it's a chair. I think, if I remember right. He has a chair just sitting there. It's like, this will erase your memory.
I'm more willing to accept that.
Wolverine accepts his memory loss.
That there's some mystical thing that erases memory. I'm more willing to accept that than a bullet.
It drives me crazy because I don't know what the general consensus is on this, but I think the whole implanted false memories thing is compelling.
Oh, yeah.
And exciting. And so, like, this movie just doesn't have that.
It doesn't do that at all.
And the movies never really went that way. So, I guess, that's more in line. But
well, you get, like, flashes of memory rather than
we always see the bonding process memory. But, like, I don't know. It takes something away from the amnesia, I guess. Also, what was Xavier doing? Because he's in a helicopter, and then he starts calling these kids out once they've been freed.
Yeah.
It just seems like if he knows this exists, he could just be
like planning.
Yeah, he could just use his powers, and everybody's like, let's get out of here. And, Stryker's like going to open the doors, like, have a good day.
Why is he there?
I don't know.
Is he just, like, following Wolverine just in case Wolverine decides to go to this place and break free?
We know he's had interaction with Stryker because he couldn't cure his son at this point.
Okay, sure.
But
maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe he was planning to come, and then he was like, oh, sweet. They're already released.
It's very strange. You feel like the most powerful telepath in the world would, he's restrained with how he uses his power, but you think he would be like, time to do some damage to this place.
True.
Also, the effect on Xavier's face is so bad.
Awful.
I mean, not that any of the CGI has been good whatsoever, but, like, if that's what Brian Cox thought they were going to do the whole movie.
Yeah.
And we talked about how it's aged a little poorly in The Last Stand.
Yeah.
Forget it. It blows it out of the water in this movie.
Yeah.
It looks so bad. It makes you think...
It looks like he's wearing someone else's face.
At the time, it made you think we would never figure this out. It was always going to be too bad. Yeah.
Well, like, and then you see it happen with Tony Stark in one of the Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is off topic. But the thing with that is that they have so much footage of young Robert Downey Jr., so it's kind of a cheat.
It's the 80s. You just take Xavier from Next Gen.
That's true.
Season 1 of Next Gen.
Just take
yeah. He doesn't have any of that hair.
Of him.
Maybe the side hair he had.
He barely talks. You could just, like, cut out his head.
Yeah, I'm surprised he even had to do it.
Yeah.
Just use archival footage then of him just staring.
Just standing there.
But the conversation Cyclops has with Xavier in his mind, he's like, you're in my mind. He's like, yes, and I can help you. It feels like that scene in the first Superman movie with him and Lois. It's like, is this a dream? Can you read my mind?
Wow.
Oh, wow, you had that ready.
Oh, yeah. They played that. We had a string quartet at our wedding, me and my husband, and we had them play Can You Read My Mind from Superman.
All right.
That was for him. That was for my husband. In a church.
So Silver Fox, right before she dies, Wolverine's been shot. He's unconscious. Maybe he's dead, Silver Fox thinks. She gets a hold of Stryker. It's like, I could kill you, but I won't.
Yeah.
Because then we're not as good as you. I don't know.
That kind of a thing is always iffy, but I do like how it pans out.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really...
It's Purple Man
impactful
stuff.
Yeah. It's very striking. How she does it.
Yeah.
She's just holding
walk
him
until you can't
passively.
walk, and then walk some more.
Yeah. And then he just does it. And there's something about how they shoot it that I really like.
And then,
I don't know if there's a sound effect, but he's like struggling, and then he turns, and then he just starts walking, and it's just like loose. It's just like, that's what he's doing now.
But then she dies alone, which is sad. Listen, we are definitely going to talk about this in Logan, which I guess you hate the movie Logan?
I don't remember enough about it.
Every time I talk about Logan, you're like, ugh. It's gory. You don't like the gore.
Yeah.
All right. Well, don't watch the gore stuff then.
Okay. I'll just watch the
But we'll definitely talk about this in Logan, and it applies for lots of stuff. Anytime a character is dying alone, it always really, like, hits me home. Because that's actually probably one of my biggest fears in life. Anytime I was broken up with, I always pictured myself as an 80-year-old sitting by a phone that never rings and then dying in a chair.
Yikes.
I don't think that anymore.
That's dark.
I don't think it, but
It's when you don't think it.
That's when it's going to happen. Yeah. It's only the people who are like, it's my biggest fear, that then they're surrounded by loved ones. But when she died, it is sad, even though I don't like this character that much in this movie. It's sad that he's unconscious over there, and she just, she has to die looking at 3 Mile Island. When Wolverine wakes up, he doesn't remember her.
Right.
Which is also a little, he seems to just be like, no, I don't know her at all. It seems like he would struggle.
Yeah, he'd be like, I don't think so.
With Wolverine, his senses are so important. It seems like there'd be a lot of sensory memory. Like, I smell things and I don't necessarily remember why I connect them. So you think he'd be like, do you know her?
This is another thing with
I don't think so. Yeah,
things affect the brain because
they just
your
assume
sensory memories are in different parts of the brain than your more conscious memory.
If we let's not assume he's been with her for the 6 years that passed since Team X and where we saw him again. Yeah. But we have to imagine he was there long enough and his senses are strong enough that he would smell her and see her and have something strike him. And it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of... Hugh Jackman's great most of the time, but it doesn't seem like he's really internalizing that at all.
Well, that strikes me as more if someone told him how he was supposed to be received.
Yeah.
Because he'd definitely be able to convey that, and it seems very purposeful that they're like, and you have nothing.
Right.
No memory.
But then it is also sad that she's dead and he doesn't remember her and he just leaves. In a better movie, it would be much more emotional, but it is hard to do a character's death happen when you're unconscious and then you don't remember them.
Right.
So...
Yeah. And then he does that thing where he closes her eyes, and I think that her eyes would just open again.
And then he just leaves.
I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, he leaves without his jacket, but I guess maybe he finds his jacket again.
Maybe he finds it.
For the next 20 years.
Well, because he had it on, and then he took it off screen so that he could give his little entrance with the...
He must pass it on his way out.
So yeah, maybe he's leaving and he's like, oh, hey, a jacket that I don't remember, but is cool.
So now this Wolverine, I mean, I don't understand the pan out. Why does the movie end with us like slowly going up into the sky, clouds, it's over?
Yeah.
I don't understand that ending.
Yeah, it's weird.
That ending shot. That's how that was the most important way for them to end the movie?
Yeah.
It's so strange.
That's very weird.
And now this Wolverine is lost for 20 years and then X-Men 1. I don't know if you remember this stuff because who knows how memory works. But
lots of people.
2009 was sort of rough for genre films at times. Yeah. It was this. We had Transformers, the second one. I think that's Dark of the Moon.
Ugh.
And then
Dark of the Moon is the stupidest title of anything ever.
We had Terminator Salvation was 2009. So
it's good stuff all around.
Star Trek was the surprise hit.
Was it the first one?
That was the first reboot.
Oh man, let me tell you,
that was like a breath of fresh air.
I love that movie.
So end credits. I kind of like the Crystal Method style music that's playing. There's this kind of like funky rave, electronica house dance music during the end credits. I'm like, okay, and then it goes back to the main score, which I don't love. So
at the end,
but hearing that track, I was like, that's the movie you should have made. This self-knowing cheesy film.
Yeah.
All right. What other
set in the 80s? They don't lean into that at all.
What other what else did you have?
Well, at the end when they show Stryker walking. I like how they have to be doing something like an overlay or something that when he's all haggard and stuff, he looks like the Stryker from the other movie.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Like once he's talking, I think they kind of drop it. But when he's walking and he's kind of like got that look on his face, he's got the jowls and stuff. He looks like the guy that he turns into.
This was number 2 of 3 Strikers.
I have a list. I don't think I'm going to read it.
Okay.
But at the end of the movie, I was like, I liked that movie. Eric hates this movie. I have to figure this out, and so I did. Things I like, and I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Like Hugh Jackman does everything right. I have the stuff with his peers
and he
that
shows
I really
his butt.
like. I like.
He hadn't showed his butt in any of the movies.
Yeah, we get
so
to see Hugh Jackman's
everybody
butt.
got to see Hugh a couple times.
That's good for everybody. I like the fight scenes seem pretty good. I have a whole long list, and then I have things I don't like. CGI claws and the memory thing at the end.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Like there's stuff that I recognize as weak. But there's nothing that I'm like, I can't stand that they did that, except for those 2 things.
Okay. Here's my biggest problem with this movie. And I know you've been saying, forget about continuity, forget about how this film fits with the other X-Men movies.
Yeah. Because at the time, there's no way to make it fit. Like, you can figure it out eventually.
Right. Sure.
But at the time, it's just like, okay, so they don't care, then whatever.
Right.
I'll just watch the movie.
Here's the problem. Boy, I'm tired. Sorry, this movie, it's so weird. Because, like, we watched The Last Stand, and it just, like, left nothing for me. But this movie still finds ways to make me mad. But here's why, I think. Because X-Men 3, the movie that it is, has a story that is resolved. There's closure for both X-Men 3 and the X-Men trilogy that they made.
Yeah.
I think. As bad as some of it is, there still leaves the audience and us with a sense of closure. So those movies have Wolverine like, I don't remember anything. I can't remember anything. What's going on with my past? 3 doesn't really deal with that at all. But the first 2 movies are very much about Wolverine not remembering anything and like, help me, I can't figure it out. This movie is a prequel.
Yeah.
Shows us everything.
Yeah.
And we have to imagine that like, this is the most important stuff because that's why the movie told it, because you tell a story about the most important part in somebody's life. We, the audience, have seen it now. And we know Wolverine's origin. And all these characters and all this stuff, who he was and whatnot. But Wolverine, the character, still does not. Yeah. They told it in a way that gives us the answers, but not in a super compelling way. It just tells us the answers.
Yeah.
But now the character still never finds this out, so we never know what any of this past stuff really means to the Wolverine that we know from 3 other movies.
It's the wrong kind of movie to make for that kind of thing, because what it should be is not we get to see what happened. What we should be seeing for that to work is, okay, now Wolverine has gone through those 3 movies, and now he's going to Canada, and we're going to watch him figure out his past.
You stole my thunder for my second thing.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's it. That's been my thing. The Wolverine movie that they made, if they wanted to deal with his past, should have been right. Yes. Exactly. He goes off and figures out. You could still show these things.
Yeah.
Maybe they're flashbacks. Maybe he's finding old video footage or something. Maybe memories are coming back to him. Whatever. But there's ways to do that. You have him go off. Maybe take Rogue with him, because now you have that and they have a connection. So now there's more. How's that affecting him?
He could even end up meeting certain people. He could still meet Gambit.
Right.
And Gambit helps to fill in the blanks
or
something.
In
it's
the comics,
I met you back then.
Right. In the comics and in the cartoons, he thought Sabretooth killed Silver Fox, and then he finds out she's still alive, and it was an implanted memory and all that. They could have even brought back... Right. They could have brought back Silver Fox for that. They could have brought back... They still could have recast Sabretooth if they wanted. It's after we fought, my head cleared up and I started remembering things or whatnot. But you could also just bring in someone new and just, I don't know, throw in Omega Red. You could... there's ways to... Stryker's dead, but he could still have an influence in that and all that. So there's things he could have found out. He could have found his old home, his old Canadian home, and his senses could have started.
Yeah, and he starts to when you're there, you sort of start to be stimulated to figure out things.
And maybe that's all pushing him out there, and because maybe he brings Rogue or somebody else from the X-Men, then maybe they can help bring him back.
Yeah.
And there's stuff there. Say he goes to the old. He finds the old Team X base. He hits a lever that's wrong, and out comes Omega Red or something, who's been in hibernation and is now, maybe a better movie for us. Who knows? The movie still could have been bad, but it would have given that character closure. Whereas in I don't know if it is in Days of Future Past, he comes back and they call him Jimmy. So he has bone claws, and he's surprised to find out he has. So he's finding this stuff out that way. He finds out his name is Jimmy and he has bone claws. And then in Logan, he has a ID on his car and everything, and it just says James Howlett. Eventually, we know that he knows his name.
Yeah.
But it still just seems not enough. It seems you have to notice the small things to realize he figured this stuff out. But it's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that highlights the difference between how you and I watch movies.
Right.
Because you're absolutely right. That would have been a better movie.
Well, you said it too, so
and
you get to be right too.
They should have made that movie. But I don't mind.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm still okay with the movie that there was.
Yeah.
Even though it could have been something better.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Timeline-wise, fun that you don't care about.
I care.
Days of Future Past.
It just doesn't color my experience.
Days of Future Past erases this.
Yeah.
And then X-Men 1 through 3. Or, we don't know what changes in X-Men 1, 2, and 3, but we know things have changed.
Yeah.
But in Apocalypse, we find out Wolverine is still captured by Weapon X, and he's now in the cage and everything. So we just have to assume, because things changed there, things changed with Stryker, and he was caught. We know he was caught differently, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Things change, so this never happens. I don't know if the Silver Fox stuff and everything still I think it does, because in Apocalypse, we'll talk about in Apocalypse, Jean they meet Logan in that cameo, and Jean gives him back a piece of his memory, and you hear the name Logan and everything, and I think it done.
Sounds like her.
I think it's supposed to be Silver Fox.
Yeah.
So I think that means they're still connected.
It makes sense that certain things would stay the same and certain things, even if they change substantially.
Right.
But there could still be similar things.
So I think, as I'm going to choose to understand it, he never joins Team X, but Stryker still captures him, but differently.
Yeah, that could be.
So.
Sure.
But post Kayla.
Yeah.
So anyway, our thoughts total on this film. You already said.
I still like it.
You still like it?
Yeah, I do.
I do not.
Yeah.
Still like it.
I think you dwell.
I do dwell because I I mean, the characters are important to me. The movies are important to me. They took pieces of stories that were better stories and chose not to tell them. Like, if they wanted to do a Weapon X story, like he's captured by Weapon X, and the movie's about him escaping Weapon X, that's a story. You want to do origin. It's probably not going to be as exciting as you think for movies. Then do that. It's funny how the Wolverine series goes up in quality, as opposed to maybe the X-Men films at times, or that it's strange. Let's have Hugh Jackman's thoughts.
Oh yeah.
He told Entertainment Weekly, I think this was for 2013, so he was talking about this in regards to the Wolverine coming out, the Japan one, 2013. He says, I had something to prove, and we could have done better. Somehow the first Wolverine movie ended up looking like the fourth X-Men, just with different characters.
That's what you said.
I left unsure if we'd achieved our goal, which was to make sure people understood my character.
Yeah, and it's because they chose to do it the way they did.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter.
Right, because he's not Wolverine. Right. He's not the Wolverine of the first three movies.
You know what? It's sort of a philosophical question. Because it takes
Who's the real Wolverine?
Well, it takes you to what makes a person a person.
Right.
Is it their memories? Is it their accumulated experiences? Or is there something inherent
to
them?
There's stuff in this, yes.
And like you see character development in this movie that ends up being wiped out by his memory loss. But then you have to wonder, is there still something?
Well, I mean, Wolverine chooses to help. He chooses to help Kayla, even though I don't buy that he totally believes her when she's like, it was real for me too.
Yeah.
I imagine that soon after you'd be like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But he still helps her sister.
Yeah.
And he frees all those other mutants. And
well, it gives you see
PO'd about the Hudsons being murdered.
Yeah.
So I think there's still this element that we know Wolverine is going to step up. It's the same.
He has something in him that drives him to do the right thing.
Right.
Even though most of the time he tries to hide it or
like
pretend
the Wolverine in the first movie who kicks Rogue out of his car and then is starting to drive away, but then stops and let her in.
Right.
Like that Wolverine is still there at times. He's just a bit more. I don't know. He's a bit more heroic in this.
Yeah, he doesn't. Something has happened in the ensuing years.
He's more jovial.
That transitions him from that to more harsh.
So.
Which we don't see for some reason.
Yeah. When I first saw the movie, the end credits I got was the hand dragging Deadpool's head back to the body.
Oh, yeah.
And him going, shh.
I had heard after the fact that there was a Deadpool pulling his head.
There's two end credits. Like, you got to get all the way through the credits.
Yeah. What's the other one?
The other one is him drinking at a bar in maybe Japan.
Yeah, that's the one
And the
I
woman's
saw.
like, drinking to forget, and he says, drinking to remember.
That's the one I saw.
So, because that was to hint that the next movie would be in Japan. But the next movie is a sequel to X-Men 3. This, I'll talk about this when we cover First Class, but this and X-Men 3 were the toxic girlfriend stage of my relationship with the X-Men series. So...
Why do you love to hurt me?
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, well, what about the next movie? I'm like, okay. Maybe we can still stay together.
Oh my gosh.
The next time we talk about a movie will be First Class.
Yeah.
We're in prequel world forever. This was the longest podcast we've ever done. There you go. 3 hours.
3 hours?
I'm Dust vs. Tweak, everywhere online, and apart from other shows on the Radio Meanwhile Network, I'm the co-host on the podcast, The All the Books Show. Hilary, thanks for being here. You never have anything to plug, so I can never be like, and Hilary has been Hilary.
Yeah, I have been myself.
Thank you. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Join us next episode as we watch and discuss the next episodes of the 90s animated series, Captive Hearts and Cold Vengeance. Captive Hearts is the Morlock episode.
Oh, swell.
Again, you can find more about the show and others like it at the network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, and share the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Bye.